Hello friends. This is Phoenix What If. How are you all? So in this video, we will see. What if Naruto fell in love with Lucy Heartfilia and got harem? But before we start, if you want more amazing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also if possible share this video with your friends. Now without wasting any more time, let's begin the story. I've never even heard of what you're asking for, platinum summon discs. Are you sure you're not just trying to waste my time? The aged shopkeep stared questioningly at the blonde man in front of him. He was a young age with bright blonde spiky hair standing on edge, apart from two longer bangs framing the sides of his face and 6 more covering his forehead. His long black cloak was making him suspicious the most, obscuring his hands from view. Underneath the black coat was a white shirt unbuttoned all the way down until it tucked into his black pants, revealing another gray shirt with a cross underneath. On his feet were a pair of black steel-toed shoes and a black messenger bag was hanging loosely from his shoulder. His bright blue eyes were set in a disappointed manner, staring at the merchandise at the counter. Darn, are you absolutely sure you have no idea where any of them can be found? He asked again, staring back at the old merchant. The old merchant now wished he had taken back his words. The boy seemed genuinely disappointed about not being able to find one of these discs. I am sorry, my boy. But I honestly don't have a clue what you are talking about. I see. The boy replied disheartened. Listen, can you let me know if you hear anything? He rummaged around in his pocket before pulling out a small blue orb. Handing it over to the man. It's a communication lacrima. It doesn't do much, just cup it in between both your hands and squeeze it tightly. When you open your hands it should work. The old merchant smiled, taking the small crystal from the boy's hand. Of course my boy. I'm sorry I wasn't able to help you. But can I take your name, in case I do hear anything? It's all right. And my name is Naruto Namikaze. The boy flashed a wide grin showing both sets of teeth. I'm sorry I took up so much of your time. I guess I should look around the rest of your store now. He laughed, as did the merchant, before he moved into the weapon stands, perusing the many items on offer. He looked through every organization of weapon, spears, partisans, longswords, short swords, scimitars, knives, daggers. He heard the sound of the bell over the door ringing, indicating another customer. He chose to ignore it, carrying on looking through the weapons. These are interesting. The blonde boy stopped, picking up 2 big swords, very thick in size but short in length, only being about 2.5 feet long with a curved point at the end. Ween might enjoy these. He looked at the price, 250 feet 000J, each. Naruto whistled quietly at the price. Luckily he came prepared. He had bartered before in order to get the discs, so every time he went into a magic shop, he had grown accustomed to carrying 2 feet 000J in his bag. Taking the 2 weapons he carried them over to the counter and merchant, who was now currently trying to be seduced by a girl around his own age with blonde hair a different shade than his own. A lump of it tied into a ponytail at the top right side of her head. She was wearing a white shirt with a blue cross design and a blue skirt in similar color and had thigh-high black boots. Around her waist was a brown belt. Naruto just managing to see the tips of keys tied onto the belt and a black whip with a heart-shaped point on a holster. Naruto stood behind her patiently as she tried to use her appeal to have the prices lowered. The merchant himself stood defiant. Can I just pay for these? Naruto snuck to the left of her. The old man nodded weakly, catching a break from the flirting blonde teen. Taking the blades to the back in order to find the sheaths. You know it's rude to cut in. The blonde girl looked to him with an annoyed pout, crossing her arms over her chest. Sorry, but it seemed like I might have been here all day if I didn't. Naruto replied with a nervous chuckle. Scratching the back of his head, the girl had big brown eyes that bore into him. Well, it was still rude. The girl huffed, turning away from him. Naruto was never one to like it when people disliked him, especially girls. Glancing over to where she was, he looked around the merchandise under the glass barrier. So what are you after? He asked, trying to make conversation whilst the merchant had disappeared, probably taking his sweet time collecting the sheaths in order to get away from the girl. The girl pointed towards the silver key on a blue cushion. So you're after Nikora, the Canis Minor. Interesting. There's quite a few of them. The girl's head whipped around surprised. You know about celestial spirits? She asked in genuine surprise. Yeah, I do. Well enough to know that 20 feet OOOJ is a bit of a steep price for Nakora. Naruto laughed, rummaging through his bag. He pulled out a good 10 feet 000J, handing it over to her. Here. He grabbed her hand and placed it in her hand, closing her hand around the money himself. What are you doing? I can't accept this. Suddenly her eyes widened in realization. Don't you think that I'm that type of girl just because of what's happening here? Her brow narrowed to a furious stare, aiming to boil Naruto's head off his shoulders with her stare. A bullet of sweat dropped from Naruto's forehead. I didn't think that at all. I just don't like carrying around loads of money when I don't need it. So when I don't need it I just tend to give it away. And how much are you carrying on you now? The girl replied, clutching the money a bit more tighter now. Taking away the 500 feet 000J I just spent on the weapons and the 10 feet 000J I just gave to you. Around 1 foot 490 feet 000J. He smiled the widest of smiles, ignoring the look of shock on her face. And you're just planning to give that all away? Why don't you just keep it? She asked incredulously, staring at his bag which currently held all that money. I don't like carrying around large sums of money when I don't need it. You get all paranoid about it, thinking you're missing some, so it's more likely to get lost, he continued grinning widely. Then why don't you just put it in a bank? Naruto's grin faded instantly, eyes widening in confusion. Before he shrugged impassively. I can always make more money. I try not to be too greedy. He smiled again. The merchant returned with the 2 sheathed blades, placing the money on the table with an added tip. Naruto took the blades, hoisting them over his shoulders by the straps. Well, it was nice meeting you. Naruto smiled at both the old merchant and the girl, giving a quick wave before he walked out of the small shop. Right, so where to now? That was my only lead. Maybe a life can help me, but she refuses to talk about the location of any of the discs. I guess I have no choice but to keeping listening to rumors. Naruto thought with a smile on his face. One of them's bound to be right eventually. Wait. Naruto heard someone call. Turning around, he found the girl from the magic store running towards him. He stopped so she could catch up to him, gesturing her to catch her breath before she said anything. I never got a chance to thank you. The girl spoke with a light pant, pointing at the shiny silver key at her waist. So you managed to buy it then? Naruto smiled at her, receiving a smile in return from the girl. Yeah, he gave me a 1 foot 000J discount, but thanks to you I managed to save 10 feet 000J. That's really gonna help me later on, so thanks a bunch. The girl smiled widely at him again, a thin red blush appearing on her face. My name is Lucy Heartfilia, by the way. Lucy, my name is Naruto Namikaze. Naruto introduced himself with a smile. So what guild are you in, Naruto? Lucy asked him interested, now walking alongside him. Guild? Naruto replied in confusion. What made her think he was in a guild? You know, you have so much money, I figured you must be in a guild when jobs come rolling in for you to save up that much money. I'm looking to join a guild myself. I had my eyes set on one in particular, but it might be better to join one where I know at least one person. She laughed heartily. Naruto himself gave off a quiet chuckle. I'm sorry to disappoint Lucy, but I'm not in a guild. I'm a wandering mage. I go from town to town and perform jobs that people don't want to pay the extra added cost of hiring a guild to do it. Guilds have added costs when they take jobs. Lucy sounded surprised. She had never heard of such a thing. Naruto nodded in return. Yep, for example, say a job gives a reward of 1 foot 000J. The real cost of the job is about 750 feet 000J. You have to pay extra in order to hire a guild. The main sum goes to the mage who performs the job, but the extra cost goes to the guild itself. It's very fair really, as it is the guild's manpower. They pay for the mage if they destroy stuff, but it's usually around 25% of the original sum, and some people don't have that extra cash to pay out. Wow, you sure know a lot about stuff, Naruto-san. Lucy looked at him mesmerized. He was smart and kind. So do you enjoy traveling around all the time? Absolutely. Naruto grinned widely at her. You get to experience so much, and the danger around every corner keeps you on edge all the time. It's really exciting. The danger bit put me off a tad. A blob of sweat dropped from Lucy's face, looking disbelievingly. So anyway, If you were after Nakora, you must be a spirit mage, yes? The blonde boy asked her. What ones have you got so far? Well, I have 3 gold keys and now I have 3 silver keys. Lucy didn't want to give too much away so easily. What about yourself? You must be a mage if you were in a store like that. The blonde boy continued smiling, something Lucy was beginning to think he wasn't able to stop doing. I'm kind of like a celestial spirit mage myself. He chuckled lightly. Really? Well, what keys do you have? Lucy was now very interested. She hadn't met another spirit mage besides her mom. I don't use keys. Naruto smiled again. Lucy looked at him confused. A celestial spirit mage that didn't use keys. I don't look for the celestial spirits of the keys. My form of spirit summoning is something else. Shengshao entity summoning. It doesn't use the constellations as the spirits but uses the zodiacs of a lost period. Someone once described it as a lost magic, but it's so similar to celestial spirit summoning that I've never thought of it like that myself. Naruto laughed loudly once again. Shengshao entity summoning. What in the world is that? I've never even heard of such a thing. Lucy wondered perplexed. It sounded as if he was making it up. Will you show me this magic? I'd like to try my own spirits against it. Lucy asked the blonde in front of her. Naruto's brow rose in slight surprise. Sure, I got time. But it might be best if we get out of town. Things can get kind of messy. Here will be good enough. Naruto had led her to a remote part of the forest. A healthy green filled her vision all around her. A small stream sparkled from the light, trickling down the hillside. Yellow and pink flowers grew here and there. All in all, it was beautiful. Naruto moved to the other side of the small clearance. Right, Lucy. Whenever you're ready. Naruto smiled again. Lucy herself smiled. Drawing out one of her gold keys. O spirit, heed me now as I call thee. Open the gate of the golden bull, Taurus. Lucy swiped the golden key through the air, twisting the key. A bright light enveloped the area. Lucy, aren't I glad that we agreed on more summoning days? Now I can see more of that Y-body each week. A massive white bull with black spots appeared, wearing not but a black speedo and a belt with a buckle in the shape of a bull's head and bandages wrapped around his wrists leading into brown gloves. He also had a golden ring in his nose and a bell on his neck. The massive bull had an equally enormous dual-bladed battle axe tied to its back. The bull spotted Naruto standing from across the field, eyeing him up angrily. Lucy, who's this moron? We're going to be fighting him, Taurus, so I need your strength. Lucy gave the bull a wink. Love hearts appeared in his eyes, mooing incomprehensibly loudly. Of course, Lucy. Anything for that Y-body. Taurus yelled loudly, before adopting a more serious battle expression, drawing his large axe out, gripping it tightly with his 2 hands. Naruto flicked his coat upwards. Lucy now saw that his belt had a small bag tied to it, as well as a gun holster. Naruto reached for the gun. Everything about it was golden, shining brightly with the sun. Lucy couldn't tell if it was just painted or actually made of solid gold. What's that? I thought you used spirits, she asked inquisitively. I do. This is my contract gun. It has a similar use to your keys. Naruto explained. He drew a small disc from the black bag strapped to his belt. Load platinum disc. Naruto spoke. He flicked a small switch. The barrel of the gun split in half, opening up. Naruto swiped the disc into the gun and closed the barrel up again. Ing the gun. Summon. First year Zishi. Liru the rat. Naruto called. Pointing the gun in her direction, he pulled the trigger, similar to her key. A bright white light appeared from it. Naruto, it's been a while since you've called me for something. Lucy almost squealed in disgust. A rat, going up to the height of Naruto's mid-thigh, appeared. He was, in a lack of better words, fat, wearing a black suit with the blazer unbuttoned, revealing a white shirt. Around his neck was a red tie with black polka dots. All of his other features were rat-like, with a long muzzle topped with a black nose, a long scrawny tail. He appeared with a sly smirk on his face, as if he knew all of her most embarrassing secrets. So what can I do for you, Naruto? His voice was slightly nasally, but was also slightly deep. The rat turned to see Taurus gripping the massive battle axe tightly. The rat turned back to Naruto. You intend to have me fight, don't you? He instantly began complaining. You know I'm not suited for battle orientation. If you intend to make me fight, I will tell Regan about this. Oh come on. Naruto whined in return, squatting down to the rat's level. Just this one time, please. No, now send me back or I will tell Regan. Liru retorted in defiance. Lucy was quite astounded. Naruto was such good terms with his spirits that they could even refuse to fight for him, or he was just a really lousy summoner. You such a rat, Liru. Naruto insulted the smaller spirit, who only smirked victoriously. I know. It's my job to rat on people. Now send me back. The rat ordered Naruto. Fine. Naruto sighed in annoyance, swiping his hand through the air. Liru's entire body began rippling as he slowly faded away again. Naruto flicked the barrel back open, taking the platinum disc back out. Sorry about this, Lucy. He apologized, placing the disc back in the small pouch and bringing out an entirely new one. Load platinum disc. He spoke again, loading the new disc into the gun. Summon. Third year Yinshi. Wean the tiger. A huge muscular spirit appeared, only a few inches shorter than Taurus. He was a man-tiger hybrid, completely yellow in color save for the darker brown patches on his shoulder face and big tail. The tiger had a long yellow mane jutting behind him like spikes, held back by a white headband tucking behind his pointed ears. His eyes were hard, staring intently at Taurus in front of him. The tiger's muscular chest was exposed, an open brown jacket was worn for upper body clothing, the sleeves seemingly torn off. On his legs he wore a similar brown pants, the ends torn off and strapped down by dark yellow circular bands. Over that he wore orange cloth, held onto his body by a large black belt. His feet were large with claws at the end with the same brown-colored material padding the arches of his feet. Half of his feet, his shins and all of his forearms including hands were wrapped in bandages. Gold Key Taurus. We meet again. The tiger smirked at the larger bull in front of him, ignoring the existence of his collar for a moment. He flexed his fingers aggressively, the bones clicking loudly. Platinum Disc Wean, I had no idea I would be seeing you again. Taurus replied, all silliness that he had ever shown seemed to disappear as soon as the tiger appeared. Wait, you two know each other? Lucy asked confused, she had never seen this Wean before. He is a previous combatant against myself. Taurus explained. Long before I met your Y-body, I had a fight against Wean, which I won most impressively. Yes, Taurus was contracted to the physically strongest man in the world. When my owner fought against him I couldn't compare. But times have changed, now I feel so much stronger. Wean grinned widely, flashing all of his sharp teeth. Oh wait. Naruto called, shifting the two swords from his shoulder, he passed them to Wean. Here, I bought these for you, I thought you might like them. Thank you, Naruto. Wean bowed his head respectively, strapping the two swords so their sheaths crossed over behind him. But I will not be using them in this fight, otherwise I cannot know if I am truly stronger than Taurus. Then shall we begin? Taurus shifted his weight, gripping the axe as hard as he could. Smirking, Wean lunged forwards, in an instant he was in front of Taurus. Fast, Lucy and Taurus thought together. Out of his fingers grew longer thick claws. He slashed them furiously across Taurus' chest. Wean landed with his palm touching the ground. His leg exploded into the recently attacked chest of Taurus, blasting him into a nearby rock. The stone crumbling under the huge impact. And strong as well. Lucy stared at Taurus' near unconscious form. With just 2 attacks Wean took down the massive bull, and he did it with ease. Taurus, you are not as strong as you used to be. Wean looked disappointed at Taurus. The strength of the spirit rivals the strength of the owner. Naruto is by far one of the strongest people I have ever known. Make sure your owner trains herself as well. I will fight you when you are of a higher form. Even Win's very words were powerful. Lucy, I must go back now. I have never felt more ashamed of myself. Am I unable to protect your Y-body? The injured Taurus asked himself as he dispersed back to the spirit world. Naruto, I take my leave as well. Wean gave another bow of the head before dispersing in a similar manner to Liru earlier. Naruto opened the barrel again, taking the disc back out the barrel before snapping it shut, placing the gun back in its holster. He approached the disheartened Lucy carefully. Lucy, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Lucy gave something Naruto could notice a mile away, a fake smile. Is it true, is Taurus weaker because I am not strong? Lucy asked herself, Win's words hurt Taurus, she could tell, but the words hurt her more. Let's go back and get some food, she suggested. Naruto, not wanting to hurt her further, agreed without hesitation, both making their way back to the port town. The two mages made their way through the streets in silence, both unsure of what to say. So, those discs. That is a very interesting form of summoning. Lucy spoke quietly, finally breaking the tension and silence. Naruto's eyes widened slightly. Rummaging through the small pouch, he drew one disc. Upon closer inspection, Lucy now saw that on one side of the disc there was a black and white picture of a tiger. On the other side there was a symbol she could only assume meant tiger, slightly indented into the metal of the disc. These are the 12 platinum discs, the rarest of all entity summoning discs. Actually, apparently these 12 are the only discs for entity summoning. I've never found another type. Naruto explained, putting the disc back into the small pouch on his waist. So how many do you own? Lucy asked with slight more interest now, but was still very disheartened. Only 4. Naruto sighed in disappointment. They're really hard to find, and Ween is the only one I own that is specifically battle-oriented and will listen to me completely. I see. Lucy was about to continue when they were interrupted by squealing girls rushing past them, screaming something about the salamander being in town. Salamander? Lucy thought, confused until her mind clicked. Salamander of fairy tale. He's the only one with that name. He's in town. I've never seen his face before. But there's so many stories about him in Sorcerer's magazine. Lucy had now regained her happiness, darting off in the direction all the women were going. A left behind Naruto sighed before jogging after Lucy. Something didn't seem right about all this. Following Lucy through every twist and turn of the streets, he eventually found her among a group of girls clamoring around he could only assume was the salamander. The girls had all been silenced, staring at a pink-haired boy with a blue cat. The boy was suddenly punched out of the crowd by the women, knocking him flying. Naruto approached the crowd, making his way through. He found a man with blue hair and tattoo on his face, a familiar face. I know you. You're not the salamander, you're... Well, I have to take my leave now. He was cut off by the salamander, who flew up into the air with purple magic, but not without giving a court wink at Lucy in particular. I hope you all consider my offer of joining me for a party on my boat at the port. He laughed as he flew into the sky. Lucy began retching in disgust. I can't believe I was fooled by Charm's magic. She continued retching as the crowd dispersed. As soon as you said he wasn't the salamander, it wore off on me. The other girls must not be mages to notice or something. Come on, Lucy. Naruto dragged her by the hand, leading her in the direction of where the pink-haired boy went. I need to find something out. Naruto had dragged her along to find a pink-haired boy and his blue cat. Inviting them all to a meal, they sat whilst the rosy-haired boy devoured all the food placed in front of him. So how did you know he wasn't the real salamander? Naruto asked the boy as he wolfed down food. Because I am looking for a salamander. Well, he's not a salamander. He's a dragon by the name of Ignil. Do you know him? The blue cat, Happy translated the words mumbled by the rosy-haired Natsu as he spoke with a mouth full of food. Why would a dragon be in town? Lucy spoke astounded. This guy was weird. Just a rumor I heard. Happy translated again. Lucy, she turned when Naruto called her. That man is dangerous. You should not approach him for any means necessary. His name is Bora. He was expelled from Titan Nose Guild for illegally selling girls as slaves. Lucy's eyes widened in shock. Well, what do I do? It looked like he focused on me. Lucy yelled in a well-deserved worried tone. Stay by my side. Naruto smiled at her confidently. I won't let him anywhere near you. That's a promise. And I never go back on my promises. A red mist spread across Lucy's face. Her heart beat furiously. Stay by his side. Are you a couple? Happy spoke for himself. Both Naruto and Lucy went bright red. Sweating badly, they shook their heads in unison. No, just friends is all. They spluttered out together. They remained in silence as Natsu ate all the food. By the time he had finished, the evening sun was beginning to turn the skies an orange color. The foursome walked through the town, Natsu sputtering out gratitude for the food all the way. As they approached the harbor, where Naruto was planning to sail from, Bora appeared on his purple carpet. Ah, I'm glad I found you. I spotted you in the crowd earlier and was hoping to offer you a last-minute invitation to my party. Bora spoke confidently, unawares they know the truth about him. Go away please. Lucy spat out, turning her head away in disgust from him. I see from your keys that you are a stellar spirit mage. Perhaps then I can offer you a place at my guild. Fairy tale. All we have to do is return to the party to fill out the introduction details. The fake salamander smirked again. Naruto noticed how Natsu tensed up upon the mention of fairy tale. Leave now. He spat out himself. If you know what's good for you. The smirk left Bora's face, anger growing on his face. He growled in fury, before his magic aura exploded in fury. This isn't worth it. He roared out loud. You are too much of a prize to lose. Do you know how much you will be worth? I will just kill these two friends of yours and take you by force. A purple flare grew around his fist. He ran forwards towards Natsu, aiming to take his head off. Natsu caught the fist easily. This is weak. Natsu spoke darkly. Such a weak person using Fairy Tale's name for dastardly purposes. Using my guild's name. Natsu's eyes widened. He threw Bora at the boat his party was at. Bora crashed through the wood. Karyu no Hoko. Natsu roared a massive amount of fire from his mouth, blast the boat up in flames. He shook his head wildly in victory over Bora. Naruto smirked at the scene in front of him. The real salamander of Fairy Tale. Amazing, but... Lucy stared at the scene in front of her as well. Are you taking it a bit too far? She screeched. In his victory roar Natsu had destroyed half the port. Someone help. Call the Rune Knights. Screeches were heard as people evacuated the burning boat and houses. Rune Knights began flooding the scene. All target Natsu, Naruto and Lucy. We got to go. Natsu panicked. Grabbing Lucy by the hand he darted off away from the Knights, Naruto following behind him. Where are we going? Lucy screeched as she was dragged through the air. You want to be a member of Fairy Tale, right? Well, how would you like to join? Natsu continued running, yet looked towards her and grinned. Both of you. He then turned to Naruto. Me, join Fairy Tale? Naruto thought suspiciously. He had never remained in one place for too long. Perhaps it was time that he finally found a place to call home. All four of them smiled as they ran towards Fairy Tale, towards new friends, towards new adventures. So this is Fairy Tale. Lucy gazed around the room with amazement. The guild was filled with laughter and happy faces, each person chattering away to another without a care in the world. Similarly, Naruto gazed around the room as well. So this is Fairy Tale. He looked around. It was louder, louder than he had become accustomed to. He was so used to traveling in silence from place to place he forgot how loud a group of people could actually be. Excuse me. Hello. A pretty white-haired girl with a red flowing dress waved them over to her. Are you new members? Natsu screamed something about it just a moment ago. Sure enough, Natsu had entered a brawl with a large man with white hair and a black-haired boy, screaming at Lucy and Naruto to come back him up. Sighing, Lucy and Naruto ignored him, making their way towards the girl frantically waving her arm. I'm Mirajane. I look after all new applicants when the master is busy. She smiled cheerily at the two of them. Naruto nodded in return, however Lucy could no longer contain herself. I can't believe I'm meeting Mirajane, the cover girl of Fairy Tale. She squealed in delight, admiring every feature of the white-haired woman. Is she always like this? Mirajane asked Naruto, laughing nervously at the blonde girl's admiring stare. I wouldn't know, I've just met her. Naruto replied honestly with a shrug. But her name, Lucy Heartfilia. It sounds so familiar it's almost scary. I know who Heartfilia is, but Lucy. So you want to be members? Let me just find the application forms. Mirajane rummaged underneath the bar counter, before bringing two forms and 2 pens out, placing one of each in front of the 2 blondes. Naruto picked up the pen and browsed over the top of the application. Name, Naruto Namikaze, age 17, likes, traveling. Dislikes, stillness magic, Shungshao entity summoning, Razan, flash step. Dreams for the future, to meet the Jade Emperor, king of the Shungshao. Naruto looked over to Lucy, who had finally gotten over meeting her idol and filled in the application form and getting a pink member's stamp on her right hand. Mira asked where Naruto wanted his stamp and in what color. Naruto lifted the left side of his shirt, asking for an orange stamp on his hip next to his gun holster. That's it. Welcome to Fairy Tale, Mira chimed happily, taking the member stamp away. That was surprisingly easy. Naruto commented curiously, he was expecting something more difficult than filling out a piece of paper. All of you shut up. A colossal titan fell from above, the light dared not come near him, leaving him as a huge back monster. All the laughing, fighting members halted in place, staring fearfully at the massive beast. Lucy ducked behind Naruto's back, quivering in fear. Naruto noticed her movement, looking at her curiously. Do you know how many complaints I've been getting? The titan roared, before shrinking down to an old man with orange clothing and silly blue and orange striped hat. His left hand filled with pieces of paper. He shuffled the papers into both of his hands before speaking again. Kana, you drank all the alcohol in a pub and sent the bill to the council. Elfman, you beat up a client who said only educated men are worthwhile. Gray, you stripped in the middle of town halfway through a job. And Natsu, you just destroyed half a port. The old man screamed in annoyance. But who cares? Everyone looked up smiling at the old man, as if they had heard all this before. We do not abide by the rules of the Magic Council. This is Fairy Tale. Do what you believe is right and live life to the fullest. The guild began erupting in cheers. The old man set the complaint papers aflame, a symbol of Fairy Tale's freedom, throwing it in the air for Natsu to jump and devour it. Mira sighed from next to him. That's the master for you. She spoke with a slight shake of the head. Naruto looked to the man in a new light. So that is the ultimate Makarov. User of ultimate magic and one of the strongest mages on the continent. Such an easygoing person for somebody in his position. Master Makarov. Naruto gently opened the door to the old man's office, located deeper within the massive castle that was Fairy Tale's guild headquarters. Oh, who are you, boy? A newbie, I presume? Makarov looked up in interest from whatever he was signing to look at the blonde kid in front of him. Upon entering and closing the door behind him, the blonde drew out a golden gun. Makarov's eyes narrowed in suspicion. The boy approached him, holding the gun above the table at Makarov's body. What is this? Some kind of stick-up? I don't know how much damage you intend to do with a contract gun. Makarov knew the design of the gun almost immediately. So you do know this? Naruto replied in return. My name is Naruto Namikaze. A celestial spirit mage and user of the Shungshao entity summoning. And yes, I am a new member of Fairy Tale. This was just so I called capture your attention. Naruto replied, placing the gun down on Makarov's desk, sitting on the chair on the opposite side of Makarov's desk, smiling at the old man. So what can I do for you, Naruto? Makarov asked, seemingly more cheerier himself. I'm looking for one of the platinum discs. Rather, I'm looking for any of the platinum discs. I figured that you might be able to help me in finding them, seeing as you have a lot more experience in the world than me. Naruto eluded the fact that he was old. He was asking for help from the man. He didn't want to insult him. The platinum discs. Now that is a tough one. Gold keys are highly wanted as there is a lot of stellar spirit mages, so there is a lot of information floating around about them. But platinum discs are rare. You're the first one using them in a long time as far as my recollection goes. However, I do recall the location of one such disc. Makarov scratched his chin, hoping to remember more about the disc. Where is it? Excitement in Naruto grew. Makarov was a well-respected man, not only for his power but for his spirit and honor as well. This was one man's word Naruto could fully trust. The last time I heard it was in the small town of Meguma, lying far in the northeast, Makarov informed him. Do you remember which one it was? Naruto asked in hope. He had read that the rabbit had some formidable power, as did the ox and monkey. I'm afraid I cannot remember that much. But this information is fresh. I only heard this a few years ago. Makarov replied apologetically. He couldn't tell the boy everything he wanted to know. It's fine. Naruto beamed widely in return. This is a good lead. I'll head to Meguma immediately. So I'll be off now, master. Naruto waved a small goodbye before he took towards the door. Wait. Makarov called behind him. Naruto stopped his movements, staring back to the old man. At least take a job in Meguma. Then you have an actual reason to go there. It will benefit everyone involved, not just yourself. Nodding, Naruto took off out of the room back towards the guild hall. He couldn't waste any time. He needed to find a job to Meguma. Naruto moved hastily towards the job notice board. He didn't want to waste any time. Someone else could come and take the only job to Meguma before he even got there. I'll have to ask Lucy to come along with me. Naruto smiled. He enjoyed hanging out with Lucy. Despite only just meeting her, her smile was warm and kind, and her mood swings of happiness to disbelief were fun to witness. But as he arrived back in the main hall of the guild, he found that the blonde girl was nowhere in sight. When he had left earlier, she was being bombarded with questions by a girl with wavy blue hair who stood with two larger guys. Puzzled, Naruto approached Mira at the bar. "Mira-san, do you know where Lucy is?" he asked inquisitively. "Oh, you must be really protective of her. Lucy sure is lucky to have a guy like you around." Mira chimed happily, giggling at Naruto's flustered look. "Only kidding. Lucy actually left a few minutes ago with Natsu and Happy on a job. She will be back in a few hours if you're willing to wait." "I don't have hours to wait," Naruto replied inwardly. He had to make sure that this rumor was true or not. He couldn't afford to waste time. "Sorry Lucy, but I have to go. But at least you're in safe hands with Natsu." "No, it's fine. I'm not her personal bodyguard or anything. She can take care of herself." Naruto smiled in return to the white-haired girl. He moved over to the notice board, his eyes scanning through all the missions available. Help prepare for the arrival of a foreign king. Get rid of a demon. Check a haunted house. Bandits. Demon. Bandits. Preparations. Bandits. 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 Naruto pulled on his hair in frustration. Gah! Is there one job that doesn't involve bandits or mundane tasks? He looked towards the notice board again, his eyes locking on to one in particular. Naruto did a double take on the notice. This could be it. He leaned forward to read the fine print better. Help redirect the lava from the oncoming volcanic eruption. Reward: 85 feet 000 J location. Meguma. Naruto's face lit up in glee. The job, and it appeared to be the only one in Meguma. Naruto punched the air in his mind. If I complete a task like this, Bisca will be sure to notice my strength. A calm voice had appeared next to him, probably someone just talking out loud to themselves. Naruto chose to ignore it. He reached for the notice, when another hand came for the very same notice, clutching onto it at the exact same time as himself. "Excuse me, but I would like this job." Naruto turned to the person. Abai looked back in annoyance. He has long, black hair which covered the right side of his face. He wore a brown cape with lighter shaded tassels cape over his shoulder and covers most of his upper body with a red shirt underneath. There is a knee guard on his left knee, and on his belt were two gun straps. The boy slowly reached for the gun on his left hip, his hand tightening around the handle. Naruto performed the same action. Revealing his golden gun, he grabbed it and pulled it out of the holster slowly. The black-haired boy looked down towards Naruto's golden gun. "An interesting weapon you have there," he noted quietly. "I didn't know the new member was also a guns mage like myself and Bisca." "I'm not a guns mage. This is a tool for my magic to activate. My magic does not rely on this gun entirely," Naruto replied as cryptically as the black-haired boy spoke before him. They eyed each other up for a few minutes, daring each other to try and take the job all to themselves. "Okay, you know what? This is ridiculous." Naruto eventually spoke, shaking his head quickly. "Why don't we take the job together? I mean, the job is to redirect lava. We'll need more than one pair of hands to do that." "Very well." The boy returned after a few seconds of hesitation. "My name is Alzak Connell. I would like to know your name as well if we are to be working together." "My name is Naruto Namikaze," Naruto replied with a cheery smile. Alzak nodded in return. Snatching the job notice, he moved over to Mira. Naruto followed closely behind in case he tried to pull a fast one. "Mira-san, Naruto and I will be going on this mission," Alzak spoke, sliding the notice paper towards the white-haired girl. Mira looked over it for a moment before a cheery smile went over her face. "Okie dokie. Have fun. I'll let the master know." "Thank you, Mira-san." Alzak gave the girl a small smile. "Come Naruto, we are departing." Alzak spoke to the blonde, flicking his brown cape back over his shoulder. For a guy so eager to get on the road, he sure is taking his time saying goodbye. Naruto mentally sighed, looking back over his shoulder. Alzak was still speaking to the green-haired cowgirl, giving her a farewell and engaging her in a friendly chat. I don't have time for this. Naruto screamed in his mind. He couldn't go over and force Alzak away from his friend, but he could at least hurry up. He needed to get to Meguma right away. Naruto's mind clicked as his eyes opened wide. Where is Meguma anyway? He stared questioningly at the road ahead. I'm sorry for making you wait so long. Alzak appeared next to him, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly, a small blush from his previous conversation still lingering on his face. He stopped all movement when he realized that his blonde companion was not paying any attention. Naruto? Alzak, do you have any idea where Meguma is? Naruto mumbled out, not looking towards his direction. No. Alzak admitted, he had been so prepared to undertake this job, he didn't bother looking at the location. Now that he thought about it, he had no idea where Meguma was. Naruto sighed. Well, the first thing to do is find out where we're going. He stated the obvious, drawing his golden contract gun and a platinum disc. Alzak watched the blonde load the disc into the gun. What do you plan to do? He asked curiously. He had never seen a gun being used like this before. Activate my magic. Naruto's eyes flicked to the road ahead. Load platinum disc. He pointed the gun directly in front of himself. Summon. 6th year Sishi. Alive the snake. A bright light flashed, temporarily blinding Alzak, who saw that Naruto remained unflinching to the bright light, probably already having become used to it. As the light faded, Alzak could hear a distinct hissing sound. It was quiet. Oh, Naruto, it's been a long time since you have summoned me. I told you before, I won't be supplying with you on information about the other Zodiac whereabouts. A feminine voice hissed coyly, a slight chuckle to its hissing. Alzak turned to face Naruto. A large bright Amazon green snake with an eggshell white underbelly had coiled itself around Naruto's body, its head resting near Naruto's, its tail, tipped with a white rattle curled around Naruto's leg. Alzak saw it had the most piercing slitted yellow eyes imaginable. Surprisingly, the snake had 2 arms which were currently both preoccupied. In its left hand was a bright red apple which the snake took small bites off of constantly. Its right hand gently and consistently brushed the side of Naruto's hair, loving the feeling as if his hair was made of cloud. So, what can I do for you? The snake hissed in a female voice, munching on its red apple. Alive. Can you tell me where the town of Meguma is? Naruto asked in a very respectful tone. Naruto knew the snake's temper, which once boiled caused disastrous results. Meguma, let's see. The green snake closed its yellow eyes. When not taking bites from its apple, it hummed in a pleasant tone. The rattle began shaking wildly, growing faster and faster until the snake's eyes shot back open. A snake-like smile grew on the snake's face. Meguma is that way. The snake replied finally, turning Naruto's head in the direction of the town, all the while stroking his hair. Very far, it is. Set on the side of a volcano. A good week's journey by foot. However, there is one train that makes a voyage there once every 3 months. Luckily you should be able to catch it from Magnolia today. Other than that, the easiest way to travel is by flight. Ah, but you and Regan are not on very good terms. So that option is cancelled out. Alive finished sadly, taking a bite out of her apple as she patted Naruto's hair. The snake looked at her apple. It had been completely eaten save the core, stopping for the first time since Alzak had seen her. Her right hand moved off Naruto's hair. She snapped her fingers quickly. Suddenly the flesh of the apple began returning, as if the apple were going back in time, returning to the time it fell ripe from the branch. Alive took a new bite from her recently renewed apple, already continuing with stroking Naruto's hair. There is also a ship that regularly travels around the continent from the port town and arrives up near Meguma, but that is a 2-month journey, not something I think you'd want to do. Huh, Naruto? The green snake giggled almost schoolgirlishly. So we need to get the train now. Come, Naruto. Alzak commented. Alife's yellow eyes darted towards Alzak, leering into his very soul. And who is this one? Alife hissed out angrily. She did not like the tone in which the black-haired boy spoke to Naruto. His name is Alzak Connell. Relax, Alife, he's a friend. Naruto responded immediately. His voice was soothing, as if trying to calm the snake down. Friend? We shall see. The snake formed a sly grin. In an instant she had jumped from Naruto's body, slithering her way quickly to Alzak, coiling herself tightly around his body, bring her head to glare into Alzak's eyes at point blank. He free hand began stroking his hair similar to how she stroked Naruto's. Alzak, don't move, Naruto ordered before Alzak even began panicking, now trying to calm Alzak down. Alzak could only gulp as the snake frowned all the while stroking his hair. I don't like this one. Alive finally commented, jumping from Alzak's body and climbing back around Naruto's, stroking his blonde locks once again. His courage and strength is great, and he is devoted. But to one person in particular. Alzak's eyes snapped open wide. How did the snake know such things? He will do dastardly things to those closest to him, all in the sake of her name. When her life is at risk, his true nature will reveal itself. She pointed one of her fingers curled around the apple at Alzak, who stood unnerved. Biska. Alzak knew immediately who the snake was speaking of. Her life will be in danger soon. A frown began growing on his face. I swear I'll protect her with my own life. A life, that's enough. Thank you for everything, but I'm going to have to send you back or we'll never catch that train. Naruto spoke to the snake. Very well then. The snake formed a sweet smile at the blonde. Don't be a stranger, Naruto. She patted him on the hair once more before vanishing away. Naruto took the disc back out the gun and placed it back in the pouch, followed by the gun back in its holster. Come Alzak, we need to catch this train. Agreed, let's go. They both turned, running down the path towards Magnolia's train station. This is going to be a long ride, we might as well get comfortable. Naruto found a free booth on the train, sliding the door open and sitting down. Alzak followed after him, sliding the door back shut and sitting on the seats opposite Naruto. These are quite expensive tickets, in the private carts on the train. Are you sure about affording this? Alzak asked as reclined into a more comfortable position. Absolutely, I need reasons to spend the money I have. I don't like carrying large amounts. Naruto smiled back in return without hesitation. Alzak could only nod, giving a small smile himself. Naruto, about that snake, a life. What was that? It was my magic, it's very similar to stellar spirit summoning. A life is one of my summons. Naruto replied, placing his golden contract gun on the table. No, I meant about the hair touching, and how she knew the location so easily and information how to get there, Alzak retorted. It's one of her magics is the ability to learn things through the earth instantly. It's like she can sense all the information about a subject through her body. And if she touches you, she can learn all of your most inner thoughts. It's easier to do this by going directly through the head, that's why she likes stroking people's hair. Depending on what she finds out about you causes her reaction to you. I'm guessing she didn't like what she saw in your head. Naruto mused, scratching his chin. Anyway, she's pretty laid back, so don't feel intimidated by her. You'll know when she gets pissed off. Now that is scary. Naruto chuckled weakly, sounding almost as if he was forcing the laugh. So what about you Alzak? Why were you so eager to take this mission? Naruto asked the black-haired boy. Well what I want to do is why I took this mission. Alzak spluttered out, his face going as red as a life's apple. He was unable to speak the truth about his feelings for Biska still. I take it you're doing this to impress a girl. Naruto replied unfazed at the comment. Alzak went silent. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. A life said something about your true nature being exposed because of a girl, just figured this would be the same thing. Now I won't lecture you about this. In fact I think it's a pretty noble gesture to do something this dangerous in her honor, but it won't count for anything unless you tell her that it was for her, and what if you died, then what could you say? Alzak looked at Naruto in surprise, but lowered his head in shame nonetheless. His words were correct. He was unable to tell Biska his feelings for her. Everything he did for her would go unnoticed unless he told her that he did them for her. I understand. Alzak mumbled in return. It's just that I can't bring myself to tell Biska. We both came over from the west together. We have been friends for such a long time, I don't want anything to ruin it. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry I brought it up. It was wrong of me if you are so uncomfortable in talking about it. Naruto smiled apologetically. And what about yourself? Why were you so eager to take this mission? Alzak asked in return to the blonde. There might be something of extreme value to myself in Meguma. It is the first real good lead I have had in a while and I must have it. This was the only job in Meguma, so I had to make sure I was taking it. Naruto replied, staring out at the fast-moving earth on the opposite side of the window. Cryptic. He doesn't want to say too much. Alzak noted Naruto's refusal to go into too much detail. You're allowed to open up, Naruto. We are friends now. Naruto looked back towards the west-grown boy, smiling at him. Friends? It was a new concept to him, traveling alone, having no place to call a home. This was all happening too fast for him. The conductor called for the final stop, Meguma. Only Naruto and Alzak remained in their cart. In fact, barely anyone got off with them. The train stopped to refuel before taking off back down the track towards Magnolia train station. A life wasn't wrong about the distance. What was that? A day and a half? Naruto groaned out as he stretched his back, leaning back to get the kinks out. Yeah, almost 2 days. Alzak returned, clicking his neck. It had been a long journey. The first-class cart offering movie lacrima and other pastimes made it easier though. My, we rarely get any visitors so far up the track. A middle-aged man stood before them, with a burnt red shade of hair and small beard, dressed in a purple shirt and black pants with an elegant sash going over both his shoulders and a wooden staff. My name is Kazan, the leader of the village of Meguma. Kazan, we are from Fairy Tail. Alzak responded, bowing respectfully towards the man. Ah, Fairy Tail, so our job request was accepted. The man perked up instantly. Well, let's not waste time here. I shall explain everything there is to know on the way to the village. The trio began leaving the small train station, stepping out from under its ceiling. The sky was darkened with black ash. Small veins of red lava ran through the ground under their feet. Looking up, the colossal volcano loomed overhead, smoke and ash plume from its mouth. At the base of the volcano was a small village. Housing consisted of hard rock houses. Probably made from all the nearby earth, it blended in nicely to the scene of the volcano. The volcano erupts annually, and in our village it is a joyous and festive time. The earth left behind is highly fertile and plants and crops grow quickly. Our barriers are good enough to stop the lava hitting our village and redirecting it around it, leaving the ground around us fertile for agriculture. Kazan began explaining as they neared the town. So what seems to be the problem? Sounds like you've got everything pretty much sorted, Naruto asked, seeing the towering walls surrounding the village. As I said, they're strong enough to withstand one eruption per year. We then repair them over the year in order to protect us for the following year. However, something has happened and it has caused the volcano to erupt more over the past few years. Last year it erupted 4 times. We simply don't have the time to repair the barriers if this continues. Many villagers have opted to flee the village, meaning we have less manpower to help repair the walls. Because of this, the volcano has created a new reputation for itself, demolished its previous one of wealth and prosperity, and has been adorned with a new nickname. And that nickname is? Alzak asked quizzically. The Gate of Hell. Kazan replied in a deadened tone. Aside from helping us repair the wall in preparation, we need people who are able and unafraid to scale the volcano and find out if the problem many of the villagers have speculated is true, and if so, exterminate it. Kazan continued. We do not expect charity. The reward for the job upon completion will be of course tripled. Tripled. Naruto let off a loud whistle. That's 255 feet 000J. Are you sure about giving away such a large amount? Kazan nodded in return. That is only the base sum. The volcano is going to erupt soon. This is its regular annual eruption, and the most ferocious. If you are able to help us in time, the reward could be even more substantial than that. I understand you may be disbelieving. Despite our appearance, our village is a pretty wealthy community. We have a lot of goods export to other towns. So what is the problem the villagers have speculated? Alzak asked curiously. The only thing possible, the volcano has never done something like this before. And recently a monstrous demon has taken up residence inside the mouth of the volcano, enduring its unbearable heat without restraint, as if training in its fires. Kazan explained. And you believe this demon is the cause? Naruto asked further. Kazan nodded. Yes, it must be doing something up there to anger the volcano and causing it to erupt. This demon, you must be wary of it. Those who have seen it have not returned unscathed. Most do not return at all. It is a 3-headed beast straight from the depths of hell. Are you up to the task of getting rid of it for us? Alzak and Naruto looked to one another before answering, a nod from each of them. We are. Wow. I'm surprised there's a cove like this that enters right into the volcano. Naruto noted with a surprised look. The cave was large enough for him to walk through without trouble. He stood near the top of the slant of the volcano's side. It also is dimly lit, probably because of the magma inside. Shrugging, he made his way closer to the cave. He stopped as he looked at the ground. Aha! He spoke energetically, bending down to pick up a stone equaling the size of his hand. He scratched it against the side of the cave's wall. A white scratch mark was left. Excellent, this will do. He smiled as he began making his way into the caves. Every 10 meters or so, or whenever he had to make a turn, he would mark an arrow pointing back in the direction of the exit. However, he noted along the way that there were similar markings along the walls, some more frustrated and crudely made than others. So what Kazan said was right. Other people have ventured up here. So I wonder how far ahead this demon is. The reason he chose to come here was simple. He knew in his heart and in his head that if the platinum disc was going to be anywhere, it would be inside the volcano. They were always in the hardest spots. A life's disc was in the deepest part of a rainforest, and resting within a pit of dangerous snakes which she led. Winds was in an oasis in the middle of a savanna, which took days under scorching heat to reach. And Liru. Naruto shuddered the thought away, retching at the memory. No, I won't cause myself to remember that sewer. He and Alzak had split up. Alzak remained in the village, helping build the defensive wall while he checked out the rumors surrounding the gate of hell. He began to hear the rumbling of magma bubbling underground, mixed with what he could only describe as a deep growling and breathing. I guess that means the rumor was true. Naruto made his way towards the noise. There is a demon that has taken up residence in the volcano. He found the light getting brighter. Following it, he stumbled onto the edge of what could be an arena in the volcano. A large platform of broken rock lay in the middle of a lake of magma, slowly being melted away by the unreal temperatures. And standing in the center, or rather chained in place by abyss black chains, was a monster. A pitch-black dog was chained by its limbs to the stone's walls of the volcano. Its arms being crossed over its chest and its legs being pulled to shoulder-length apart. 3 dog heads panted deeply and evilly, black smoke escaping from their mouths with every breath, pouring down onto the ground below. There was no fat on its human-like body, every muscle pulsed through its sleek black fur coat, with a tattered tribal-like loincloth hanging around its waist as its only form of clothing. Golden spiked chokers and bracelets were around its arms and legs and necks. Across its body were blue tribal markings. Its fists flexed at the presence of Naruto, revealing long, sharp, steel-like claws. It looked up. As soon as its 3 sets of eyes met Naruto's figure, their gaze hardened with fury. Its deep growl turned into a piercing roar, shaking the foundations of the environment surrounding them, its 3 sets of sharp teeth bearing towards Naruto. Its limbs tore themselves from their chain confinements. Long chains now hung from its arms and legs. It slipped into a pouncing hunter stance, growling furiously at Naruto. Quickly, Naruto took towards his contract gun and Wind's disc. Sorry Alzak, but I might be a little longer than I anticipated. He apologized in his maid. Load platinum disc. Naruto swiped Wind's disc into the gun. Summon. 3rd year Yinshi. Wean the tiger. Gun's magic. Earth Slade shot. Alzak roared loudly, firing 2 extra bullets down, which turned into heavy stone slates, layering up the final 2 chunks missing of his work. The extra wall he had created now stood 5 rows of his earth slates long and 8 meters high. His hands, still clutching his pistols, leaned onto his knees for support. He panted heavily, sweat dripping from his face. I'm exhausted. He sighed inwardly. And I've only gotten halfway through what I had planned to build this wall. His teeth clenched together in frustration. I wanted to prove I can be as brave and strong and dependable as Naruto, Natsu and Gray. But am I even at their level? You want to go on a job, Alzak, with me? His eyes flashed open wide as her words flooded back into his mind. I think you're going to be one of the strongest mages in this guild. I can't wait to see you become S-class. That's right. Determination began building back with him. Suddenly he didn't feel as tired anymore. Biska believes in my strength. If I can't even build one wall, how will I ever accomplish my dreams? If I don't finish this wall, how can I look Biska in the eye again? Gun's magic. Earth Slade shot. Alzak yelled in a newfound determination, shooting rapid-fire bullets down, forming new rows or earth slates. Suddenly the village stopped as the sky split in 2, the bright sun beaming down on the land for perhaps the first time. The ash of the volcano split as the sun targeted that directly. The villagers looked at the sky mesmerized by the blissful blue and the shining sun. Alzak looked up to the volcano in worry. What could possibly be happening up there? I hope Naruto is okay. Perhaps we shouldn't have split up. Flashback. Break. So how shall we do this? Naruto asked seriously, staring down Alzak intently. The easiest solution here would be for one of us to build the wall whilst the other checks out the volcano for the demon. The only thing we know about it is that it apparently has 3 heads. That might not be much, but it's something. Alzak's head lowered. I should say it, but why can't I? He should say I'll check out the volcano, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. Am I really that afraid of the unknown? I came from the West without knowing anything about this land, and this is a lot less scarier than that, but why can't I say I'll go? Am I really that afraid? I'll go. Alzak's head snapped up, looking in shock at Naruto, who looked rather uninterested with his proclamation, despite the fact he said it without hesitation, unlike himself. I'll check out the volcano, you stay here and help rebuild the village's defenses. I won't be too long. Naruto left immediately, giving a small wave over his shoulder. Such bravery, unlike myself, he isn't scared, or at least, he doesn't show it. Alzak's spirit hardened. I will be as brave and courageous as Naruto. It may not be at the same level, but I will ensure that this wall is completed in time. Alzak turned around to face the broken down wall of Meguma. He drew his 2 guns and ran towards it. Guns magic. Earth slate shot. A magic seal shone green in front of the barrels of his pistols. The bullets he fired turned into large slates of earth crashing onto the ground in front of the wall. He fired more across, creating a layer along the bottom of the wall. I can't stop there, Alzak gritted in his mind, firing more bullets. He created a platform of earth along the ground extending from the wall, 5 rows of earth slates. He then began firing more bullets, now layering slates on top of the platform. I will succeed. Alzak sighed a sigh of relief. His work was done. Standing atop his work, he wiped the sweat from his brow. He turned to Kazan. There. I added 10 layers of my earth slate around the sides of the village, and it is 10 meters high. I have even put seating areas on the top so you can watch the eruption take place now instead of waiting behind the wall. Kazan inspected Alzak's creation, large enough for to walk on it easily. Amazing, he mumbled under his breath. This added wall is infused with much denser stone, so this could last up to a decade. Plus you have created a tourist attraction by people being able to view a volcano erupting. This is exquisite and an unnecessary added feature you have bestowed upon us. There will most certainly be a bonus in your pay. Kazan chimed happily at the end, pleased with Alzak's work. This village, it has no morals when it comes to money, they just seem to want to throw it away. Alzak sighed inwardly. This village was incredibly money-oriented, but his job was to build a wall. He didn't deserve extra for doing his job. Everyone turned as an explosion was heard. Magma burst from the top of the volcano, only a small amount, perhaps just to build up to the actual event, but ash and earth blew from the tops of the volcano and from holes in the side. Alzak noticed one such item being hurled towards them, firing through the air. It crashed down hard on top of the wall, only slightly cracking the top of what he had spent all day creating. As the smoke cleared around the object, screams of horror erupted. Go and fetch assistance quick, Alzak shouted at the villagers. It was not a lump of earth that struck the wall, but Naruto. Beaten, bloody and burned. His eyes were lifelessly open, his mouth hung agape. It was safe to say he was unconscious, but he could be dead. Alzak hurried towards him, smoke still creeping off his body. He checked for even the smallest pulse. There was. Faint as a whisper, but certainly a pulse. Villagers came with a makeshift stretcher to hoist him onto. As they gently picked Naruto up, Alzak noticed, despite being unconscious, Naruto's left hand was tightly enveloped around something. Peeling his hand open, to take whatever he was clutching onto for safekeeping, he found a small disc. One of his summon discs. Alzak noted, on one face it had the symbol for dog, while on the other was a picture of the very same animal. So Yiro finally managed to break free from my spell. A voice spoke quietly to themselves from the rim of the volcano. Watching the lava pouring down the sides of the earth, the village had created a durable enough wall to last a good few more years thanks to that cowboy mage. A shame really, having my dark magic course through Yiro's body into the volcano and cause it to erupt more violently was fun and all, but it appears I may have to move on, besides. His gaze shifted to the small hut where the blonde boy was located in. Even from the distance, he could see it, he could smell it. Naruto Namikaze, I smell rat on you. Standing up, he readjusted his black blazing and readjusted his tie and top hat. His body began fading slowly, as if fading out of this world and into a murky mist. At least now I know who my target is. We'll see each other real soon, Naruto. Naruto's eyes snapped open, his chest heaved up and down rapidly, his upper body shot up as he scanned his surroundings, trying to figure out where he was. Naruto, Naruto. Calm down. Alzak jumped to hold onto the blonde's shoulders, restraining him from moving too much. His body was injured too badly to move yet. You're back at Meguma. You're badly injured, you must calm down. Naruto continued looking around, his eyes darting to a small mirror to the left. Sure enough, he was in a bed, his body covered in white bandages, only his face and the top of his hair visible. His usual bright eyes, darkened with tiredness and purple bruises, snapped open, searching around his person for something. Where is it? Naruto flew into a rage, screaming the repeated question. He grabbed Alzak by the collar, pulling him so they were face to face. Where the hell is it? He screamed right in Alzak's face, glaring wide-eyed directly in Alzak's startled ones. You mean this? Alzak shakily opened his hand, revealing the platinum disc he found in the unconscious Naruto's hand. I've been holding onto it for safekeeping. Give me it. Naruto snatched it from Alzak's hand, pushing him away at the same time. Alzak crashed onto the floor, wincing slightly. He looked back up at Naruto's, who was gripping the disc tightly in both hands. I've never seen someone more obsessed over something, not even Natsu's that obsessed about finding Ignil. Alzak stared as Naruto stroked the disc a few times. I'm sorry, Naruto apologized quietly, but you have no idea what I went through to get this. I see. Alzak mumbled. That made sense, Naruto's obsession over the disc and his injuries. He might have gone through hell to get that disc. What happened up there? Was there really a demon? Naruto nodded, holding up the disc to Alzak's horror. That disc holds the demon. He spoke in alarm, but remained quiet as to not startle the villagers. Naruto looked down at the platinum disc in his hands. In a way, yes. The demon in the volcano was actually one of the Shungshao spirits, however he was under an evil curse, which he has now been freed of. I guess I may have to explain in more detail. Load platinum disc. Naruto swiped Win's disc into the gun. Summon. Third year Yinshi. Ween the tiger. Naruto. I am ready to fight. Ween appeared confident, cracking his knuckles, however his body froze as soon as he saw the demon, staring into its eyes. I see, he noted. That's quite a complication. What is? Naruto asked curiously. Ween noticed something instantly that he himself couldn't see. There is a dark magic coursing through the body of that beast. It's being funneled into the volcano, aggravating the magma and its pressure causing it to erupt more violently. Ween explained. But more importantly, and perhaps more dangerous, is that the beast itself is the 11th year Zushi. Yiro the dog, who went missing 2 years ago. What? Naruto yelled, turning to the beast in astonishment. That's one of the Shungshao spirits? Naruto asked in an unbelieving manner. Ween only nodded in return. It is, however Yiro has been possessed by an evil curse, he appears to not even be in the right mindset, and this mutation on his body, it is not his true form. Ween flexed the muscles in his arm, preparing for the fight. Naruto, I ask that you step away from this fight, it will more than likely not end well. No way. Naruto smiled, standing confidently next to the larger tiger. I fight alongside my spirits, that's my style. Very well, Ween accepted begrudgingly. However, I will be the decoy. I will use my claw and burst magics to restrain Yiro, then you move in for the attack, Ween replied. Burst. You can only use that for 8 seconds at a time. Then you have to wait 1 minute before you'll be able to use it again. You'll be dangerously exposed. Naruto commented. Sure, Ween's speed and strength increased to an almost unrivaled level once he activated Burst, but there was only an 8-second time limit to use the spell. It's a worthy risk. Even with your speed through Flash Step, you might not have the strength to restrain Yiro. I on the other hand will. Ween glared hard at Yiro's snarling, drooling form. We begin now, Ween shouted. All the muscles in his body seemed to tense, and wall of air exploded off of him. The ground cracked and crumbled under his feet. Burst. In a second he was gone. Not but an enormous crater of destroyed earth was left where he was stood. Naruto looked over to the snarling dog, unprepared at wind's speed, received a crushing blow from overhead on the middle skull. Ween followed quickly. Claw. Iron Maiden. He shouted, Wind's second magic, giving him the ability to grow bone claws from any part of his body to any length he thought of, giving him unbelievable diversity in fighting an opponent, especially when using it with burst. Hundreds of spikes, all roughly 3 inches long, protruded from Wind's skin, covering his torso and arms. Within a second he was behind Yiro, wrapping his huge arms around the dog demon's body, clamping them shut and trapping his arms down, the spikes digging into the black fur. Now Naruto, Ween screamed. Naruto nodded. Flash step. Sky-soaring leap. Channel his magic. Naruto disappeared, reappearing above both Yiro and Ween. There it is. Ween recognized the magic. Flash step. The only magic I have ever lost against in terms of speed. But mind you, it's pretty difficult to beat a teleportation spell. Get ready to move, Ween. Naruto shouted. He extended the digits out on his left hand, stretching them apart. Small blue spheres began growing at the end of each finger, barely bigger than a golf ball. The blue spheres spiraled around madly. Rasen. Tama. Naruto roared. The spheres shot from Naruto's fingers like bullets, shooting down towards Yiro. Win held steady, releasing his grip on Yiro at the very last minute, dodging the attack and leaving Yiro to accept the full brunt of it. Each sphere was like a miniature explosion mixed with a tornado, spiraling uncontrollably and expanding once they met a target. The demon dog was completely covered in smoke from the attack. It grunted in pain as the attacks struck, exploding on its skin. Naruto and Ween landed safely on opposite sides of the arena-like platform on the lava, Yiro still standing in the middle. And there is his second magic, Rasen. Unlike other magics that channel the magic into an element being either created or already there, such as ice, lightning, fire, light, and even souls, Rasen uses only pure magical power that courses in the user's body in the form of a spiraling shape, concentrating and powering whilst spinning in place. It is dangerous, and cost me the fight on that day. Ween remembered the day he and Naruto met, when he joined Naruto on his journey. As the smoke cleared, they found Yiro glaring at both of them at the same time, using 2 heads, his chest heaved up and down. Yiro never had that kind of endurance before. Ween stared at the beast. Whatever had cursed Yiro had increased his strength and endurance tremendously. Shit, our attack did nothing. Naruto gritted his teeth, preparing another 10 bullets of Rasen. Tama. Yiro roared ferociously. The chains wrapped around his wrists suddenly grew in proportion without warning. In a split second, chains wrapped around both Naruto and Ween, tightening around them like an anaconda. A chain magic. Ween looked in surprise. Yiro never had one of these before. Looking down at the chains, glowing an eerie black in color, he felt the chains burning against his skin. And they burned. The target was there wrapped as well. Continuing roaring, Yiro swung both of them with power, lifting them up into the air easily. The chains extended further. Their bodies began crashing against the sides of the volcano. Flesh and bone met earth with a frightening impact. The chains retracted quickly as Yiro swung his arms down from overhead. Naruto and Ween crashed into the earth face first. Ween winced as he felt the chains tighten even further, but he heard a spluttering. Opening only one eye, he found Naruto bloody and beaten, coughing up massive amounts of blood. Naruto was leaner than his bulky frame. He had more muscle to cushion the impact and a naturally higher endurance. His bones were also stronger. These attacks must be slowly killing Naruto. I must do something. Ween thought in worry, but felt himself being swung by the chains again. He and Naruto soared in the air once again, before being launched to opposite ends of the volcano, landing of chunks of rock along the walls after crashing into it. Looking, Naruto was slowly looking back at Yiro, barely moving at all. Looking down to Yiro, he found the demon preparing some kind of assault, charging towards Naruto. No! Ween screamed in his head, jumping back to his feet in pain. I made a promise at the time we met. And I intend to keep it, Naruto. Flashback break. Rasen. Gone. The blonde boy drove a blue spiraling sphere formed in his right hand into his abdomen. Ween flinched as the attack struck him. The attack, mixed with the boy's other magic, drove him through the trees of the small oasis, finishing with Win's back drilling into a large rock. This boy is strong, Ween thought through the pain filling his body. I couldn't read his attacks, that magic. Flash step. It was as if he was teleporting his body, it was like fighting a yellow blur. I couldn't keep up. I lost. Win's body craved sleep, and he allowed it, closing his eyes for what he could have expected to be for the last time. Win's eyes opened slowly. Looking, he found the blonde boy wrapping his body in bandages. You spared my life? Ween asked quietly. What do you mean? Spirits can't die, can they? The boy asked curiously as he continued wrapping Win's back. Not death, but we spirits can cease to exist. Celestial spirits, if they spend too long in the human world without returning to the spirit world, will fade from existence. Us Shengshao spirits do not possess that weakness, as we must be found in the real world and challenged in order to join the user of his spirits. However, if we are afflicted by a terrible magic, be it curse magic or black magic, we can cease to exist, just like all living things. Ween explained as Naruto finished bandaging him. Moving, he sat in front of Ween, leaning against a smaller rock. Well then, I couldn't kill you even if I wanted to, Ween. My magic isn't black or dark magic. The blonde boy smiled at the tiger. You knew my identity before I told you that, didn't you? But how did you manage to find me out here? Ween asked in suspicion. A life gave me a point in the right direction. The blonde smiled even wider. My name is Naruto, by the way. And I want you to join me. Naruto, so you are the new user of Shengshao entity summoning that is collecting the discs. May I ask what discs you have so far? Ween asked curiously. Not a good trait. He remembered some saying about curiosity and cats, but this boy was strong enough to best him, one of the few combat-oriented spirits in Shengshao, and one of the strongest. What others could he have obtained? All I have at the moment is the dragon and the snake, but I have another lead about where the rat is as well. Naruto replied with a cheery smile. Regan? Ween scoffed heartily. He took to a new owner uncharacteristically quickly, especially seeing as his last owner could have been classed as a god. Regan was the first spirit I got. I found him with the contract gun a few years ago by accident in an ancient tomb. Regan doesn't like me too much, and I agree with him. I haven't earned his respect yet, but I will in time. I just need to prove myself. I see. Well, you have proved yourself to me. You have completed my challenge, to defeat me in combat. And as a tiger, a strong and proud species, that is not easy for me to say. Ween commented with a smirk growing on his face. Your strength is commendable, therefore I will offer mine to you. I will join you. I hope I will be of use to you. Of course you will. All the spirits are extraordinary in their own way. Naruto smiled, extending his hand towards Ween, looking surprised. Ween reached for it slowly. Naruto shook their hands. Ween smiled in appreciation. He had never been shown such respect and kindness before. I will be of use to you, Naruto. I will ensure your safety no matter what, was Ween's thought as he finally returned to the spirit plane in a bright light. Naruto looked down at the platinum disc now in his hand, the symbol for tiger on one side, a picture of one on the other. The sun sparkled off the disc in a shining glory. Finally, Ween the tiger. I think we will make a good team. Flashback end break. The demonic Yiro moved in for the inevitable kill. 3 sets of fangs bared, its claws sharpened to rip and shred Naruto apart. And Naruto couldn't move. His body froze in place. Was it because of fear? Or did he realize that this was unavoidable? Right from the get-go he was at a disadvantage against this super strength demon. All Naruto could hear was silence, as the beast approached, pulling its arms back and jumping into the air, aiming to crash down on Naruto. A shadow appeared in front of him, arms extending wide, creating a wall between himself and the demon. Naruto's eyes widened further. Move, Ween! He screamed, yet the tiger stood in place. I used burst to close the distance between me and Naruto. Now there's no way I can dodge Yiro's attack. Staring over his shoulder back at Naruto, he formed a small smile on his face. I am unable to use my strength to defend you against this threat. Yiro is too strong for me in this form, but perhaps I can still be of some use to you. Escape, as he attacks me. Ween spoke softly, turning back to face Yiro's jaws. There was no time for anything else. Yiro had closed the distance in an instant, Two sets of jaws clamped down onto Win's shoulders, tearing into flesh. The third hit under his left arm. At Win's back, two arms crossed and sharp claws dug into skin. In a second, Yiro pulled everything back, claws tearing through flesh, meat being ripped from the torso by the jaw. Yiro roared ferociously from his three mouths, gargling on the skin of its recent attack. Win fell backwards, and Naruto still couldn't move to help him. He began fading away as spirits do when they return to the spirit world. However, his light was dim, dimmer than any light he had ever seen. Even as he fell to the ground, even as his wound gnawed away at him, Win's smile never faded. He disappeared back to the spirit world entirely just before his back struck the ground, leaving Naruto alone with the beast. However, this beast was not Yiro. This beast came from within Naruto, wide shocked eyes furrowed into rage-filled ones. His nostrils flared in fury, teeth clenched together yet lips pulled apart. Naruto snarled with every breath. He let out a scream of pure vengeance, bringing out a new disc. Something he had promised not to do until he was ready. Load platinum disc. Naruto screamed in fury, placing the new disc in the gun. Summon. 5th year Chenshi. Regan the dragon. He pointed the gun towards the ash-filled sky and fired. Light exploded from the gun, wind twisted around the shot. Naruto, I'm disappointed. A voice beckoned out inside the volcano. Never have I seen such damage inflicted upon Win. This only proves my point further. You are not able to wield as spirits. A man, dressed head to toe in armor, appeared. His armor was spiked in a shining blue and gold color, the feet shaped like claws digging into the earth. His helmet was tipped with a long red fabric flowing behind him. 3 long thorned whips of steel extended from in between the shoulders of the armor. He stared down the beast in front of him. I know this one is to blame for Win's injuries, and his wounds are filled with a dark magic. It is halting the spirit world's instant healing ability upon re-entry. Win is being tended to, but Yiro must be stopped now. The man's voice echoed within his helmet. His hands formed a circle in front of his stomach. This is my power, bathed in the warmth of the light. Regan chanted ominously, looking up. Naruto saw the clouds, the very sky beginning to split, the sun shining through into the volcano, light collecting and concentrating into Regan's hands. Tenki. Absolving supernova. Regan roaring, firing the blast of light at Yiro. There was no escape. Light filled the volcano. Yiro roared in pain as the light enveloped his entire body. Naruto's vision faltered in the light, it blinded him. Regan is so strong, he is right. I have no right to fight alongside him in battle. Do I have the right to fight with any of the discs as well? You do have the right to fight alongside us, Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened. That was an entirely new voice. And how did they know my thoughts? Naruto asked himself with shock. The light of Regan's attack began to fade. Gone was the demonic beast that was Yiro. Now there stood what could only be described as divine. The 2 extra heads had disappeared. Now the single dog head had a narrower muzzle, with a soft, completive look to its eyes. The bulging muscles were covered by a white, skin-tight cloth that covered all its muscles. Over its head was a solid gold cloth headdress. He also wore golden gauntlets over his arms and a golden battle skirt. Cloths of black and white fabric flowed behind the dogman at his shoulders and back. In his right hand was a large staff made of gold, tipped like a hammer at the end. Who is this? Naruto stared at the man in wonder, his eyes wide with awe at the man before him. He looked more regal than even Regan. I am Yiro. The dogman introduced himself to Naruto's shock. I must explain these turn of events. I was infected with a curse magic, turning my form into that hideous form, wiping my mind clean of everything but destruction. My body was only a medium to pour dark magic into the volcano and earth, causing its violent eruptions. But who was the cause of your curse, Yiro? Regan's armor faded from his body, as if like a requip. Regan revealed his own face, one that Naruto had only seen once before. He was a young man with dark green hair, sleeked into a backward spiked style and a pair of violet-colored eyes. His face was soft, yet authoritative. He dressed in an expensive-looking white suit jacket and pants with a purple undershirt, with a black belt and shined shoes. Embroidered on the back of his jacket was green and yellow dragon. Yiro noted Regan's face and nodded. I believe it was Spedizi. His answer left nothing but confusion in Naruto. Who or what is Spedizi? Naruto thought, perplexed. The battle was long forgotten. Yiro genuinely seemed free from his curse. Speedsy. It does sound like him. He had always enjoyed destruction, even to use it as a pastime. Regan stroked his chin in contemplation. But now of all times for him to resurface, it surely can't be of coincidence. What's so special about now? Naruto asked, feeling completely left out of the conversation. It is the first time in decades that there has been a Shungshao entity summoner. I would watch yourself, Naruto. Speedsy may be targeting you for your status as the summoner. Maybe even more due to the events as to how you became one. Yiro answered for the both of them. You mean because I found the contract gun in Regan's disc? Naruto replied, that was his main speculation as to why he felt he had no respect from Regan. Usually a summoner must defeat the spirit in combat in order to have them join them. But he was young when he found the box containing Regan's disc, not old enough for Regan to challenge. Therefore Regan had no choice but to join with Naruto as the holder of the contract gun. It was probably worse that Regan was the leader of the 12 Shungshao. Naruto's mind snapped open in recollection. He had not thought about that time for so long, he had forgotten everything about it. He worked in a large mansion as a cook's aide. Being orphaned at a young age, the wife of the owner's mansion offered him refuge. He remembered seeing her, the daughter of the owner of the mansion, playing happily with her mother and her mother's spirits. Heartphilia, Lucy. Naruto's mind recalled the name of the girl. He had left the mansion the day the wife died 7 years ago and had not thought of it since. Suddenly the girl he spent 4 years serving was back in his life. Layla-sama, I will protect your daughter no matter what. That is how I will repay my debt to you. Yiro. Regan captured both attentions of Naruto and Yiro, glaring at Yiro in a scolding manner. Under the influence of evil or not, you should never raise a hand against a brother, you should never attack those closest to you. Yiro lowered his head in shame. I understand, I will ensure that Ween recuperates completely. And Naruto, Regan turned to face him. I have already said what I needed to say to you. You have not yet earned the right to work with me. Come and face me when you are ready. And how will I know when I am ready? Naruto asked in return. Regan always spoke about being ready, but never offered any incentive on how to understand that. Regan began to evaporate into a light, returning to the spirit world. You will know. Remember that I reign over the 12 Shungshao. I will not be easy to recruit fully. He finished as he completely vanished. Naruto, Yiro called, Naruto turning to face the jackal-headed man. Rest assured I will ensure that Ween recovers fully. And I owe you a debt for freeing me from that curse. Yiro moved down to one knee, bowing his head respectfully to Naruto, like a servant to a master. So allow me to join you on your journey as a loyal servant. I decline. Naruto replied instantly to the surprise of Yiro. Looking up, he found a warm smile on Naruto's face. I don't want a servant, but I will have you join me, as a friend and companion. A smirk grew on Yiro's own face. Very well, he uttered, before he began vanishing in a light similar to Regan. As he disappeared completely, a little platinum disc flicked at Naruto, which he caught in his left hand. One side had the symbol for dog, while the other had a picture of one. Smiling at the small disc, Naruto looked up in horror at the rumbling of the earth around him. Magma bubbled and shot out in the pool in front of him. Our fight must have aggravated the volcano. Plus Yiro used magic in that form. That would have sped up the release of dark magic. Naruto thought. Faintly he could see the magma beginning to rise. I need to get out of here. Rising to his feet, Naruto took one step. Blinding pain ran up his leg. Shit, my leg's broken. Looking toward the exit, he began making agonizingly small steps towards it, making sure not to put too much pressure on his leg. I won't get out of here in time. I won't let some magma take my kill. Naruto's eyes widened as two hands placed onto his shoulders. He had no time to turn around. An invisible blast forced him through the wall of the volcano like a drill. Friction burned his skin around him. But a light came, and he felt free. Looking down quickly, he found his body soaring through the air in the direction of the village. He slowly closed his eyes. His body drilling through the rock was too much. He passed out. And that's it, that's all I can remember. Naruto finished, looking at his bandaged hand, inside being the new platinum disc he recovered. Smiling, he placed the disc into the bag pouch. One more and I will have half of the 12 Shungshao. I see, you've gone through a lot. I'm sorry I was unable to help you. Perhaps you wouldn't have left with such injuries. Alzak replied sadly. It's all right. I'll heal in no time flat. I'm already using a magic to heal myself now. Ameliorate, it's called. Naruto smiled. Where is everyone else anyway? He looked around. He had seen no villagers walking past. Kazan had not come to see them at all. Smiling, Alzak moved to the front of the hut, pulling back the curtain down. They're all over there, no longer cowering behind their wall. Naruto looked over in awe. The villagers sat atop the wall, watching the volcano erupt into the sky. Beams of red and orange light firing in many directions, made stronger by the black ash dimming all other light. Amazing, Naruto mumbled. Something so violent and destructive is able to bring people together like that. 450 feet 000J. That's way too much. Naruto stared at the swollen bag of money on Alzak's back, almost fit to burst at the sheer amount of money it contained. Simply because you put seats on a wall and I got injured. We will split it accordingly when we're on the train. It's too public out here. Alzak returned, ignoring Naruto's earlier protests of returning to the village and giving most of the money back. Alzak was shocked that after a few days Naruto was once again able to move without problem, his broken leg completely healed, although he still remained bandaged. That ameliorate spell of his must work miracles. Just split it 50-50. Naruto huffed. He didn't like having a lot of money. Money made people greedy and only want more of it, so he liked to spend money as much as he could. He grew up on little, so having a lot made him uncomfortable. But you are more injured than I am. And your task was significantly harder, therefore you deserve more of the pay. Besides, you might not be able to work for a while. Alzak responded sternly, pointing to Naruto's bandaged wounds. Peeved. This is nothing. Naruto shrugged off Alzak's concerns. I'll be completely healed by the time we return to Magnolia. Which may I ask how we are going to get back to? Seeing as the train won't come back up here for little over 2 weeks. Alzak only chuckled lightly. I had the same concern, and was contacted by Mira-san. Apparently, Urza and Natsu messed with the trains at a station on a job whilst dealing with the members of the Dark Guild Eisenwald, causing the schedules to be messed up, so apparently the train is coming earlier now. I'll go get our tickets, we'll go first class so we can have some privacy as we split the money. Alzak smiled as he went towards the ticket stand, leaving Naruto to stand on the platform. What luck, it appears someone, somewhere is making sure we're not wasting time doing nothing and can move on to our next adventure. Naruto commented in his mind, looking towards the timetable. The train should be arriving within 20 minutes. Bark. Naruto looked down. A small puppy, barely reaching halfway up his shin, sat at his feet. The top of its fur was black, while its underbelly with a white-beige color. It barked again, staring up at Naruto, wagging its tail and panting lightly. What's up, dog? Where's your owner? Naruto nodded towards the puppy, before looking around the platform, hoping to find someone looking for the dog. The dog barked again, rubbing its body gently against Naruto's leg, stroking its fur against it. No, you need to find your owner, now scoot. Naruto pushed the dog away gently with his foot. The dog slid across the floor, its claws digging into the ground trying to stop the movement. Naruto, it is I, Yiro. Naruto's eyes widened, looking around for the spirit. Where are you? Naruto called out, staring in all directions. Down here. Yiro's voice called again, it leading Naruto to stare down at the small dog. Immediately Naruto's brow rose in an amused surprise. Yiro? Is that you? Naruto scoffed in amusement, looking down at the small dog at his feet. Yes. This is my true form. Yiro responded telepathically, nodding his small head. I worry for my owner's safety so much that I adopted this form in order to be by their side at all times, to spring into battle should they need my assistance. I will make sure you are safe from any danger. That's pretty cool. Naruto smiled widely at the small dog. To be able to change your form like that, is that a common trait, I wonder? A life can also change her size when she fights, and Regan re-equips his armor. Naruto mused. He wondered if Regan could actually morph into a real dragon. Shaking the thoughts from his head, Naruto smiled down towards the mini Yiro. I guess that's fine, it will probably be good to have someone to talk to whilst on job. Naruto, I got your ticket. Alzak returned, passing a ticket to Naruto. Instantly Alzak caught sight of the dog at Naruto's feet. Whose dog is that? I think it's a stray. Naruto lied. It approached me looking for food, I can't just leave it here. So I'm going to keep it. Naruto smiled, picking up the dog. Okay. Alzak shrugged, wondering why Naruto was trying to justify his point so much. It's not against the law for you to have a dog, you know. So what are you going to call him? Yiro. Naruto replied with a smile. It saved him having to lie about a new name for the spirit. Yiro. An interesting name. Alzak nodded. The train arrived and they boarded it through the doors. Let's go home. I'd like to see Fairy Tail again. Naruto, there is something I must speak with you about, something about that magic you used to defeat me in my cursed form. We must speak about it later. Yiro's small puppy-like form spoke telepathically. Naruto nodded in the direction of the small dog, not wanting to look crazy by beginning to suddenly speak to his dog in front of Alzak, but was also unsure Yiro could read his thoughts as well. The bandages Naruto had worn to mask his injuries had been discarded. He no longer had any need for them as his wounds were completely healed. He and Alzak moved at a leisurely pace towards the Fairy Tail building, the front door entrance close in sight. As they approached the door, it had finally dawned on Naruto how much he and Alzak had in common. Both came to Fury from elsewhere, with no money or no family in sight. Both strived to become something better than they were, and the most obvious, they both used guns as a source of their magic. Naruto had found a valued friend in Alzak, one of his first ever. They both stopped at the front doors before opening them, turning to one another with smiles on their faces. Their hands slapped together, gripping each other's hand. Farewell, Naruto. Thank you for the journey we shared together. Maybe one day we can work together on a job again. Alzak laughed lightly, shaking Naruto's hand once. Naruto laughed in response. Yeah, I'd like that as well, maybe something that isn't as life-threatening next time. Naruto laughed a little harder, flashing both sets of his white teeth. Alzak laughed himself before waving a final goodbye, making his way into the guild and heading directly towards a long green-haired cowgirl. Yiro. Naruto squatted down to the dog's height. I need you to go back to the spirit world for a while. I don't want too much attention. I'm going house hunting later. My chances of getting a decent place might drop if I have a pet with me. Of course. But we must talk later. Yiro nodded, before poofing out of this world and back to his own. Smiling, Naruto stood up, clicking his neck. He walked into the guild. The mages still chatting away with each other. Naruto headed straight towards the barmaid Mira-Jane. Hey Mira-san. Me and Alzak are back from our job. He smiled and waved towards her, before handing her a bag. The guild's cut of the pay. He informed her of the bag's content. Ah, hello Naruto. Well, I just mark you and Alzak as returned alive. Mira chimed happily, taking the bag of jewels. Naruto sighed in relaxation. It was good to be back. His eyes darted to the left. A few stools down the bar sat Lucy, moping sadly with her head in her arms, a free hand playing with a straw and a drink while she stared at it intently. Lucy? Naruto approached her with a gentle smile. She responded to his call by her eyes shifting towards him. Hey, Naruto. Where have you been? When I came back from my job with Natsu, Mira had told me that you had gone on a job. Lucy mumbled into her arm, but Naruto was still able to comprehend what she was saying. Yeah, I was on a job with Alzak in a place called Meguma. Naruto chuckled, scratching the back of his head as he sat down next to Lucy. Really? How was it? Lucy asked with a tang of more interest now, looking away from her drink again to sit upright and look at Naruto. It was eventful. Naruto chuckled again, smiling at her. But enough about me. What about you? You seem sad about something. It's just. Lucy sighed again, before moping down on the bar counter again. I have no money to rent an apartment. She began crying, tears pooling down her face. I'm gonna be homeless, she wailed out. Her crying stopped when Naruto laughed. Wiping the tears away, she looked at him with a mixture of confusion and anger. Why was he laughing about her misery? If you need a place to stay for a while, then you can stay with me. Naruto smiled widely at her. He remembered his promise to Layla years ago. He would make sure Lucy was safe. Lucy's eyes widened in surprise. No, I couldn't possibly intrude. She shook her head in refusal. It was a very nice offer. But she left home to be independent, to explore the world. She didn't want someone to lean onto constantly. Well, if not, you can at least come house hunting with me. She looked at Naruto again in confusion. Remember, I've just come to town myself. I need to find a place as well. And maybe while we search for a place for me we can find a place for you, if not then you're welcome to stay with me for a while. Lucy blushed. It wasn't a bad idea. She could find a nice place and price through Naruto then get the money to rent it. Okay, let's go. Naruto and Lucy approached the next house in an awkward silence. Neither of them had said anything to bring upon this silence, rather, it was what they weren't saying. For the 11th time today they heard the phrase ushered by the landlords. This will be the perfect place for a young couple such as yourselves. There were occasional variations. The most common were from male landlords, who praised Naruto. He wasn't sure what for, so he gently diffused the situation by explaining that they were only friends. What made it even more awkward that the amount of times they had to dismiss the idea of there being any relationship between them made it appear as if they were embarrassed to be seen with each other. Thus they now walked in silence, both unsure of what to say. Their feet trotted along the pavement in unison, walking towards the next apartment. How many more apartments are there to look at? Lucy broke the silence between them with a valid question. They had just left the 15th potential apartment. Not many more, think about 3. Maybe 4? Naruto responded, a faint, almost forced smile on his face. They approached the next apartment building, roughly around 5 stories high. It was nestled in the middle of Mango Row, which led down to Strawberry Street and wasn't too far from Fairy Tale. From the outside it looked like a stretched-out cottage, but most importantly there was a sign reading apartment vacancies being displayed in the window. They entered through the front door and into the lobby. They found the landlord's front desk and approached it. There sat a little old lady, a rocking chair instead of any type of formal seating. A cat had nestled itself comfortably on her lap, giving off a content purr as she stroked its fur gently. Hello. I saw your advertisement for vacancies in your window. Naruto approached her with a gentle voice and gentle smile on his face. Of course. Well, there is only one room left. If you'd like I can give you a tour of the room before you officially apply. The old woman gently smiled back. The name is Martha, by the way. My name is Naruto. Naruto responded with a small bow of the head. The old woman slowly got out of her seat and asked Naruto to follow her, Lucy following behind Naruto. They climbed a few flights of stairs, arriving on the 4th floor. Placing a key in the lock of room 4D, Martha opened the door. Naruto and Lucy walked into the room, gazing around at it. In short, it was downright enormous, and this was only the front room. The walls were a plain magnolia color, and the carpet was a pale beige, with a fireplace set against a wall. Large windows allowed the sun's light into the room. Lucy moved over to them quickly, staring out of the window to check out the view. Martha closed the door behind her before walking next to Naruto. The 4th and 5th floors are a different style to the ground, 1st, 2nd and 3rd floors. These 2 floors go for size instead of room numbers, quality over quantity so to speak. Martha chuckled at her own little joke, before moving forwards. To the left is the kitchen, and next to the kitchen is the bathroom. The living area can also be used as a dining area. Martha pointed to the 2 closed doors. She then turned to face the right, where Naruto and Lucy found instead of rooms there was a corridor, not large, but still a corridor. There are 3 doors down the corridor. One leads to the master bedroom, which is complete with a built-in wardrobe and ensuite. On the opposite side is the guest room, and next to the guest room is the door to the balcony. Wow, this is amazing. Lucy sighed in wonder as she stared out of the window. Naruto moved to stand next to her. The river flowed gently just below them, and in the distance the sea could be seen colliding with the sky. Blues clashed together in an array of color. Definitely the best apartment we've seen today, she whispered to Naruto. Martha heard, however, chuckling slightly and offering gratitude to Lucy. How much is the rent? The rent for this room is set at 450 feet 000J. Martha said with an apparent sigh. It seemed she didn't like to be asked this question. However, I like you too. You both seem very happy, and at this rate I'll never get anyone to take this room. So I'm willing to offer you the room for 350 feet 000J. I'll still never be able to afford that. Lucy cried out, tears pouring from her eyes. And I really like this place. Come on, Naruto, let's go. She sniffled out as she hung her head low, shuffling out the room as slowly as possible in a depressed state. Martha looked sadly at the blonde girl leave, but noticed the confused look on the blonde boy's face. What is it, lad? She asked curiously. Naruto watched Lucy leave with a confused expression. It seems that she forgot we were looking for a place for me. Lucy, wait up. Naruto ran after the blonde girl. She stopped to stare at him blankly. Naruto stopped just in front of her, beaming widely at her, both sets of teeth almost reflecting the sun back off them. Oh Naruto, what's up? She asked curiously, dropping her blank expression. She took a step back when Naruto's arm rose quickly, holding a key between his fingers. What's this? The spare key to my new apartment. Naruto grinned sheepishly, which was followed by a childish chuckle. You got the apartment? Lucy asked in surprise. She had completely forgotten that they were looking for apartments for Naruto and not her. Plus she wasn't surprised that he could afford it, seeing as he throws away money like it was nothing. I got the apartment. Naruto nodded his head back and forth quickly, before straightening himself out, holding the key in the palm of his hand. And I want you to have the spare key to it. He spoke a bit more seriously. But why? Lucy asked scrupulously. It wasn't normal for someone to just give you the key to their house. Because, traveling around like I do, you meet a lot of people, but you don't really make friends. You're one of the first real friends I've had in a while, so if you ever needed a place to stay or just someone to talk to, you can just drop by. Naruto smiled softly, his eyes gazing deeply into Lucy's, before coughing, his eyes shifting around. Also, I'm terrible for losing keys, a habit I expect that you don't share. Naruto chuckled lightly, his eyes darting to Lucy's belt where her summon keys dangled. Lucy giggled lightly, getting the joke. All right Naruto. She spoke quietly, a tint of red on her cheeks as she took the key from his hand, placing it in the small bag on her belt at her waist. So what do you want to do now? You want to get something to eat. This house hunting thing's getting me hungry. Then I guess I better go furniture shopping. Naruto scratched the side of his face. He didn't like shopping at the best of times, but these were essential items. The only things that were in his apartments were 2 beds and a sofa, things he intended to replace. Get something to eat? Lucy's imagination began taking over her logic. She imagined them going to a quiet restaurant, chatting, he make her laugh, then his hand would gently envelope hers on the table, the pad of his thumb gently stroking the skin on her hand. A perfect dinner date. Date? Her eyes widened. He was basically asking her on a date, and Naruto had been so nice to her, she couldn't possibly refuse. And why wouldn't I? Naruto is smart, well-traveled, funny, strong, loyal, not to mention cute. A small smile grew on her face. Blushing even further she answered, oh okay. Great, then let's go. Naruto winked, pointing in the direction behind him. As we were walking to the apartment building, I kept hearing people talk highly of this little restaurant. So might as well follow the word of mouth. Naruto smiled widely, taking her by the hand he led her in the direction of the restaurant. Wow, that really was good. Naruto sighed contentedly, now sipping away at a cup of coffee. He and Lucy had finished their meals. Lucy insisted on paying, but Naruto paid with the excuse that since he asked her he should be the one to pay. Lucy, it has been bugging me for some time now, so I was wondering if I could ask you something? Naruto spoke quite seriously, but still in a friendly tone. Of course Naruto, ask away. Lucy responded cheerfully, sipping away at her own coffee. Heartfilia, it's a pretty unique last name. I've only ever heard it somewhere else. Heartfilia concern. Naruto let his voice roll on there, seeing the reaction on Lucy's face. Lucy's cheerfulness faded. She looked down sadly at her coffee, so Naruto knew of Heartfilia concern. She couldn't deny it now. He wouldn't have brought it up if he wasn't suspicious about her relation to it. I'm the daughter of the owner. Lucy finally responded in a dead tone. This would change everything. No one at Fairy Tail would look at her the same. Naruto wouldn't look at her the same. Word would get to her father where she was and he will have her brought back to the estate to be married off to some guy. I see. Naruto nodded. So it's definitely her and not just some cruel coincidence. I hated my life there. Lucy suddenly continued to Naruto's surprise. It was awful, to be neglected by someone who was supposed to love, to know that there was no freedom in your life. To waste away each day until the day came when you were practically sold off to someone in order to marry them just to improve your father's business. No, I ran away from it all. I didn't need the money in order to be happy. I just wanted to be free. It's best if she doesn't know of my relation to her then. Naruto decided inwardly. If Lucy knew that he once worked for her father, she might assume that he is only helping her because his servant side was resurfacing around her. Lucy felt like crying again. A single tear dropped from her eye, dripping into her coffee. She felt another tear forming, but was surprised at the sudden weight on the hand she had laid on the table. Looking towards it, she found another hand laid on top of it, the thumb gently stroking against her hand. Looking up, Naruto was looking at her with a serene smile. "I'll keep your secret safe. I promise." He leaned forwards, with his free hand wiping away the tear about to drip down her face. "And I never go back on my promises." He smiled more widely, his other hand now resting on Lucy's cheek. Lucy's blush resurfaced, almost subconsciously snuggling her cheek into his hand. "His hands are so warm." She almost moaned with disappointment when Naruto retracted both his hands, leaning back into his chair to sip his coffee again. Lucy stared at him for what felt like hours, until she noticed a few sets of eyes staring at her from the left. Her eyes darted to see. Sat at a table to the left were a group of females, obviously around her age, staring angrily at her, their teeth gritted together, letting out tuts of frustration. Lucy wondered what the problem was. She has never seen any of them before in her life. "Look at that guy. What's she got that we don't have?" She finally heard one say it loudly, her voice filled to the brim with jealousy. "I know. He's totally a hunk. He should be with me." "No, he should be with me. Seriously, what's he doing with her anyway?" "I can see two pretty big reasons just below her neck." Lucy's face fell again. "You want to leave?" Lucy looked towards Naruto, who appeared irritated. His eyes darted over to the group of females. He had heard them too. Lucy nodded quickly. Naruto placed money on their table and promptly left with Lucy, exiting the restaurant without giving the group of females so much as a second glance, ignoring their attempts to get his attention. "I'm sorry about those girls, Lucy." Naruto looked up at Lucy apologetically. "It's okay, it wasn't your fault anyway," Lucy responded, now standing taller than Naruto as a result of walking along the wall barricade people from falling into the river. She enjoyed doing it despite passerby boatmen warning her not to. Walking in pace with the flowing water relaxed her. "I should ask, Lucy, as a spirit summoner to spirit summoner, how do you see your spirits?" Naruto asked in intrigue. Her answer could quite possibly make or break his opinion about her. "My spirits are my friends, my trusted partners. They're living, breathing, feeling things too. They're not slaves to be used and then thrown away like garbage. My spirits and I fight as one," Lucy replied confidently. "I couldn't have said it better myself." Naruto smiled, completely satisfied with her answer. "Have you got any new spirits?" "Yes. I got the maiden, Virgo." Lucy chimed happily, fondly remembering signing a contract with them. "What about you? Your summon magic is a mystery to me. What spirits do you have? And how do you make contracts with them?" "We don't make contracts," Naruto replied honestly. "The spirit issues a challenge to the summoner, anything that the spirit desires to be challenged. When I found Ween, I had to beat him in combat. Liru's challenge was to beat him in a game of shogi. If you succeed in their challenge, you gain their trust and they offer their services to you, but I usually refuse their servitude and only ask for their companionship in life and in battle. Then the summoner can summon a spirit at any time he wants really. As for my number of spirits, I found my fifth one a couple of days ago. Yiro the dog," Naruto explained. "And what is his abilities?" Lucy asked in interest. She hadn't seen any of Naruto's spirit's abilities other than Win's superhuman strength and speed. "I'm not sure yet. He can change his form, but I'm not sure if that's unique to him or a shared trait amongst all the spirits." Naruto replied honestly, still sometimes imagining the dragon that Regan could possibly become. "I see." Lucy nodded. Naruto didn't really explain much. She turned to look at the water again, staring down intensely at her reflection. As she stepped forward, she didn't notice a small puddle of water on the wall, mostly likely splashed on by a passing boat. With her attention focused on the water, she stepped on it. Her boots slipped on the water. Lucy felt herself topple to the left. Looking down, she could only see the river below her. She was about to scream, but she felt herself stop falling. Looking to see the cause, Naruto, in an instant, had grabbed her hand, saving her from falling. Pulling her back onto the ground, she stumbled again, falling towards Naruto. But once again Naruto catched her, but failed to stop the momentum. She pushed him back, while he held onto her, causing her to be pressed right up against him. Easy. Naruto chuckled lightly, his hands placed supportively on her waist. Lucy looked back up to him. He gazed down, his deep blue eyes meeting her brown ones. A larger smile formed on his face. And Lucy couldn't help but wonder why their contact felt so right. Naruto continued smiling as he helped her return to her feet properly, letting go to allow her to walk again. Right, we should probably hit those furniture stores, before it gets too dark. Naruto spoke aloud, looking up to the faint orange in the sky. Smiling to Lucy, who nodded, both made their way quickly to the shopping district of town. For the first time in a while Naruto and Lucy both felt spoiled. Both of them held bags full of new clothes and other essentials, like towels, food and toiletries. Naruto buying new clothes for himself and for Lucy, against her reluctance. Well, the furniture will be delivered tomorrow, so I will have to stay in tomorrow to make sure I'm there. Actually, it'll be pretty good to relax before I take another job. Naruto laughed. Yeah, it would be. Unfortunately, I have to go on a job so I can get money to rent my own place to put all this stuff. Lucy shook the bags of clothes in her hands. Well, why don't you keep them at my place? You can even stay there a couple of days while you save money to find your own apartment. If anything, I probably won't be there as much when I start taking more jobs. Naruto offered again. Please, it'll put me at ease to at least you have a roof over your head. Alright Naruto, but just for a couple of days, Lucy said sternly. Naruto was surprisingly convincing, and it was sweet how much he cared for her. Just for a couple of days. Naruto nodded. They were already making their way towards his new apartment anyways, and it was getting dark. Lucy probably would have asked to stay there anyways. He was surprised to find that they were not far from his apartment. They were quickly at his apartment before the sun had even fully set, natural light still breaking through at its minimum. They were up the stairs and at Naruto's apartment. Naruto opening the door and allowing Lucy in. Well, all in all, I've had a pretty fun day, thank you Naruto. Lucy smiled widely at Naruto, who returned an even bigger one. So we should do this sometime in the future. Naruto laughed, before an idea formed in his head. Hey, how about you come with me on my next job? Lucy mused the offer. What was your last job again? Climbing inside a volcano when it is about to erupt in order to defeat a demon. Naruto spoke quickly and as if it was nothing. Lucy's entire body shivered with fear. No thanks. That's way too dangerous for my like. Oh, and I had promised Natsu I would go on some mystery job that he planned to get. Sorry, she looked at Naruto apologetically. No problem, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Well, you're welcome to stay tomorrow and help me decorate, although I must apologize for the lack of things to do. Naruto chuckled again, he had nothing to entertain themselves with. It's all right. I'm gonna go sort out all these new clothes. Lucy spoke with excitement, heading off towards the guest room. She looked over her shoulder before entering. Thanks for this Naruto, for everything. If it wasn't for you, I'd probably have never even found Fairy Tail. She gave one more sincere smile before entering the room, closing the door behind her. Naruto smiled to her as she entered the room. As soon as the door closed, he sighed. Looking around, he liked his new apartment. It was spacious, relaxing. Pretty good find. Guess I better get these things unpacked. He moved towards the kitchen, dealing with the food first. I've had fun today, nothing could possibly have ruined it. A lone man walked leisurely through a cave, strolling within the shadows without fear, as if he was a shadow himself, his hand gently feeling the wall of the cave. No fire or lanterns were used to light his way, he remained solely in the darkness. And one person was on his mind, throughout his entire journey. That blonde mage plagued his mind. Naruto. The fact that you have signed Liru to you concerns me. When I heard that a new Shungshao spirit summoner had surfaced, I had hoped we could be partners. And with Regan in your arsenal as well, convincing you to join me will be troublesome. The lone person thought, after seeing Naruto battle against the monstrous hero, he had become fixated on him. He needed the power Naruto possessed. Ah, here we are. He spoke aloud in a cheerful tone, snapping his fingers loudly. Lanterns of fire grew along the sides of the walls, enveloping the room he was in with light. It was a large circular room, incredibly large, almost as large as Yiro's chamber in the volcano. It was filled with stone statues of gargoyles, some perfectly shaped with detail down to wrinkles or chipped claws, others, not so perfect, deformed shapes with one arm larger than the other. However, the bulk of the statues rested in two forms. One set of gargoyles were about 6 feet tall with large, menacing, bat-like wings, their mouths agape with their fangs baring, their eyes forming sinister, pupilless stares of fury. Claws were bared and ready to rip apart flesh. There was no clothing detailed on this form, allowing the detail of a bony body to shine through. The second form was much larger, standing an impressive 10 feet tall with a bulky physique. These statues stood dressed in a glorious knight's armor, dressed from the neck down in armor detail befitting a royal warrior. However, the face was still exposed. Like the previous form, the mouth was agape with fangs bared, accursed fury-filled eyes, bald head and pointy ears. Instead of wings, these statues held a variety of stone weapons, stone axes, stone swords, stone polearms, stone spears, stone maces, and even stone scythes. The single living person in the room looked around with a satisfied look on his face, like a thief after stealing a prized jewel. What on earth is that? His face fell as he turned completely around, only staring in astonishment at what was in front of him. A set of stairs had been carved into the cave. The man was surprised at how he managed to miss this when he first entered the room. Sat atop the stairs was a massive throne, and on the throne was the largest statue yet, at least 25 feet tall, filling the throne seat perfectly, forearms resting on the arm rests, the left hand dug into the end of the arm rest, cracks appearing in the throne around the fingers. In its right hand was a large scepter, topped with a hammer-like ball. It was dressed similarly to the large set of statues, dressed up to the neck with armor detailing. However, there were two extra add-ons. One was a large stone cape, which flooded lazily over the throne on which this stone statue sat. The other feature was around its bald skull was a crown of spikes. The detail was immaculate. It appeared as if the spikes of the crown were digging into and pulling the skin on its head, stretching and pulling the skin. This enormous statue possessed the same facial characteristic detailing as the other two forms of gargoyles, yet this one possessed a more regal quality to it as well. "So you're the king of these things, are you?" The man spoke to the largest statue with a smirk on his face. He bowed jokingly towards the stone statue. "Well, I must say what excellent craftsmanship this is." The man looked around at all the gargoyles. Even the deformed ones were immaculate, masterful works in progress. To think that these were hidden within the drifting mountains, with no one to ever witness their beauty. Although, I wonder where the sculptor of such masterpieces is. The man looked around with interest, checking to see if there was any passageways from this room other than the one he came from. They were, but the light from the fire surely would have alerted someone, yet no one came. The man shrugged his shoulders impassively. "Oh well, doesn't bother me. Means there's more toys for me to play with then." He flashed a Cheshire grin, staring at the gargoyles, his new toys. He moved back to the front of this gargoyle army, standing in front of its king and soldiers. He waved his hand across the entire room and uttered only one word. "Breathe." The once stone eyes morphed to two different colors. The right eye changed to a dark, yet vivid blue, while the left morphed to a glowing, ominous yellow. The stone crumbled and cracked and the limbs of the stone gargoyles began to move, breaking from their original positions. The king sat on the throne and clicked his neck. The soldiers' faces grew even darker, their brows burrowing further. The gargoyles screamed and screeched and roared with life, all in the same high-pitched tone, yet the noise emitted from them was not enough to mask the shrieks of hysteric laughter. The single man stood in front of them, arms wide and head back, laughing maniacally. He breathed in deeply after laughing, before screeching with laughter again. "Oh, this is going to be fun." Naruto stood in the middle of his lounge, smiling and looking proudly around the room. All the furniture had arrived, included a massive 98 inches Lacrima-powered TV, two black leather couches and a very light blue rug to be laid in front of the couches. He had painted the walls his favorite color, orange. New beds and wardrobes had been brought in and everything was in perfect place. "Yep, I'm gonna like it here. The place looks amazing, Naruto." Lucy smiled happily. It was cute seeing Naruto being like a little kid. It seemed he really loved this new place. "Yeah. But remember, if you ever need a place to stay, just drop by. You're always welcome here." Naruto gave a more serene, soft smile towards her. It caused Lucy to tremble slightly. She couldn't keep looking at him in the eyes. She looked away, staring at the floor to the left of her. "Thanks," she muttered, until she saw something that caught her eye. A small bag leaning against the wall in the lounge. She approached it and picked it up, tipping out the contents. It was Naruto Platinum Discs. "Naruto, your summon discs are here," she told him. She looked at each one carefully. Each disc he possessed had the symbol of the animal summon, as well as a picture. "Let's see. There's a rat, that was Liru. Tiger, Ween. Dog, that could have been who he went off with for a couple of hours to train with, Yiro was his name. Snake, that must be a life. And," Lucy's eyes went wide at the last disc. "There's a dragon summon," she near screamed in surprise. Naruto rushed over to her quickly, snatching the discs and pouch. "I'm sorry, but these are my most prized possessions. I don't like other people touching them." He smiled weakly, placing his discs back in his bag. How can there be a dragon summon?" Lucy asked nervously. "Natsu would go berserk if he would to hear of this." "I don't know. I've heard very few things about them. I only know that there is also a horse, ox and monkey. I don't really know what animals the others are. But I guess that just makes it all the better surprise when I find them." Naruto laughed, beaming widely again as he went to the couch, jumping onto it lazily, sprawling himself out on it. "Naruto." Lucy called him, sitting on the other couch, waiting for his of a reply. "You've traveled around a lot, right? Have you heard anything about the gold celestial keys?" Naruto's upper body slowly rose back up, his eyes meeting hers. He seemed apologetic. No, they didn't really concern me, so I didn't bother looking for them." "Oh, okay then." Lucy smiled half-heartedly. She was let down. She was hoping he would have hundreds of rumors to tell her about them, like their locations, who has them, what they can do. "Although," Naruto continued, Lucy's eyes lit up slightly, "I did hear something about one of them." "Which one?" Lucy spoke in an eager, giddy voice, crossing her legs onto the couch and sitting with her hands planted firmly on her knees. "I think it was called Ophiucure, Ophiuchus. Yeah, definitely Ophiuchus." Naruto spoke with his face crumpled up, his memory slightly hazy on the subject. It was a while since he thought about it. "Really? Are you sure?" Lucy asked curiously, her eyebrow rose in suspicion. "Yeah, definitely Ophiuchus. The golden zodiac key Ophiuchus. That's the one." Naruto grinned widely, flashing both sets of teeth. It felt good to help. "Then you probably heard a lie." And with that short sentence from Lucy, Naruto's face fell. "There's no golden zodiac called Ophiuchus. The 12 are called the water bearer, Aquarius. The ram, Aries. The lion, Leo. The bull, Taurus. The crab, Cancer. The twins, Gemini. The maiden, Virgo. The scales, Libra. The fish, Pisces. The goat, Capricorn. The archer, Sagittarius. And the scorpion, Scorpio. There's nothing about an Ophiuchus." Naruto shrugged his shoulders, his lower lip jutting out. "That's just what I heard. If it was just a lie or a rumor, then forget about it." "Where did you hear it?" Lucy asked, still curious about this Ophiuchus. "When I was in Sin." Naruto replied honestly. His answer was met with a confused stare from the blonde Lucy, staring at him like he was crazy. Naruto quickly hopped off the couch and went to his bag, pulling out a massive map of their continent. He pointed to a small country right to the eastern border of the continent, south of the massive Pergrande kingdom. The country Sin. He noted again. Lucy looked in wonder at the map. Sin was on the other side of the continent. Naruto had really traveled all the way to there and back. She was scared to run away from home, even though she was staying in Fury. Naruto traveled right across the continent by himself, and it was as if he didn't have a care in the world. "I can't believe it's on the other side of the continent. If you want, one day we'll take a trip to Sin and look up this Ophiuchus in more detail." Naruto jokingly laughed, sitting down again and melting into a relaxed position. "Naruto, please don't tell anyone about the job me and Natsu are going on, or we'll be in really big trouble." Naruto remembered the pleading tone to Lucy's voice when she said that to him. "I promise I'll keep it a secret, although I better get out of here myself so they can't question me about it." Naruto smiled awkwardly to himself, his eyes darting around the guild before staring back up at the job notice board, looking for a job that might interest him. "Hey, you're Naru-san, right?" A slightly short teen-aged girl with wavy blue hair and a slender smiled widely at him. Her hair was tied back by a light yellow ribbon. She wore an orange shirt that went down to her midsection, leaving her navel exposed with a blue, short-sleeved jacket over it going to a similar length. Her legs were covered by white pants that went down past her knees, that were rolled up at the edges. Yeah. Who are you? Naruto eyed the girl up carefully. He didn't have the slightest clue who this girl was, and she was already giving him a nickname. My name's Levi McGarden. I'm friends with Lucy, although I just call her Lu-chan. The blue-haired girl, now identified as Levi, chimed happily. Lu-chan's spoken about before. Seeing I can't find her anywhere, I figured I'd just introduce myself. Well, hey, Levi. The name's Naruto Namikaze. Naruto beamed widely back at the blue-haired girl, until he heard a jealous grumbling behind him, and it seemed to echo. Naruto turned to see the cause. Two boys, standing around the same height, if not taller, stood there glaring jealously at him. One was a slim man. His black eyes were narrowed scornfully. He also sported an unusual hairstyle for his black hair. It appeared to be like a stem of a plant. It drooped downwards as his head was tilting forwards. He wears a plain long-sleeved shirt and dark green checkered pants and a yellow belt-like garment going around his neck. The other was also a young, slim man with orange hair. His mouth had opened whilst he growled jealously, revealing some slightly misshapen teeth. A small, protruding, triangular-shaped molar, upper left molar, along with a chipped portion on the lower row corresponding it. He wore a brown coat with cottony necklines that fall down to his thighs, a violet shirt underneath, and dark pants that are tucked inside tight, black boots. The top of his head was tipped with a fancy hat. Can I help you? Naruto asked incredulously, staring at the two grumbling boys with a raised eyebrow. These are Droy and Jet. Levi beamed, running around to throw her arms around their necks. Naruto noticed how they both seemed to loosen up with the physical contact with the girl. We're in a team together, we're called Shadow Gear. We've been a team for a long time. Cool, what's up Jet and Droy? Naruto nodded his head towards both of them, giving them a smaller smile than he would usually give strangers. He didn't like the way they were treating him at first. Nothing much. They both seemed grumbled back together in an annoyed tone. Levi suddenly brought the duo down to her height by the ears. Before whispering something to them so quietly Naruto couldn't hear. Naruto went into surprise when both of their faces lightened up. They grinned as wide as he usually would, both of them throwing an arm around his neck. How are you, Naruto? Shadow Gear was just about to go on a job, and Levi wanted to ask if you would like to come along, seeing as you and her are both friends of Lucy. She wants to get to know you better. They both spoke in incredibly happy, excited voices. As if they were both told the greatest news ever. And where's this job taking place at? Naruto asked all three of them, but only really needed an answer from one. He looked more towards Levi for the answer. These two guys just seemed annoying. The Drifting Mountains. Levi smiled again, catching Naruto's surprised expression. I'm guessing by the look on your face you've heard about them? Yeah, Naruto replied, freeing himself from the grip of Jet and Droy. They're a mountain range that have a faster than normal tectonic activity rate, causing them to move faster than the rest of the land, making it look as if they are moving by themselves. I've always wanted to see them, but never had the chance. Well, here's your chance. Levi beamed widely, waving a job notice in front of his face. This job is at a village located on the Drifting Mountains. You want to come with us? Sure. Naruto beamed widely back. Whatever the job was, the only thing that interested him was that it was on a place he really wanted to see. So we're getting off at Bosco and traveling from there on foot? Naruto asked. They had been on the train for 20 minutes now. He had sat in relative silence, watching Jet and Droy's awful attempts of hitting on Levi. They both sat on either side of her in their carriage box on the train, while Naruto had the opposing side all to himself. Perhaps we should use this time to better know each other. My name is Naruto Namikaze, I'm 17 years old. I use a celestial spirit summoning magic like Lucy, but mine is called Shungshao entity summoning. I also use a magic known as Rosin, which uses pure concentrated magic instead of channeling it into a medium like an object or element. I also have a teleportation magic named Flash Step. Naruto smiled at the three of them, who all looked a little astonished at the amount of magics he possessed. I'll go next. My name is Levi McGarden, and I'm 17 years old as well. I use solid script. It allows me to turn whatever I write into what it is. For example, if I wrote fire, then you would be hit by a blast of fire. If I wrote water, you'd be attacked by a blast of water. Levi smiled widely at Naruto. It was him who she was more introducing herself to. Jet and Droy had known her since childhood. I'm Jet. I'm 18 years old. I use the high-speed magic, God's Leg. As the name suggests, it boosts my speed, making me the fastest man in Fairy Tail. Jet spoke, trying to act mysterious, nodding his head towards Naruto. Name's Droy. Also 18. I use a plant magic. The seeds I plant from my live coal can morph into a variety of attacks. Droy spoke and acted in a similarly mysterious way to Jet, probably just a play to attract Levi, which Naruto had assumed they were both trying to do from the way they acted around her. Naruto smiled at all three of them. Well, this is fun. He suddenly spoke, confusing them. I've only done 2 jobs with Fairy Tail so far. My first one was with Alzak. To be honest, I like taking jobs with different people. You never get bored of the company because it's always changing. You're always meeting new people, you know? Yeah, I understand. The 3 of them chuckled awkwardly. They got what Naruto was saying, despite the fact the 3 of them had been together since childhood. So what is the job exactly? Naruto asked innocently, as if he didn't just make things awkward for the Shadow Gear team. Oh yes, Levi replied, astounded that she had completely forgot to detail Naruto about the job. There's a cave located somewhere in the Drifting Mountains, large enough for someone to live in. The village that lies on the Drifting Mountains, Deriva, wants us to locate and investigate the cave, search in it for treasure. The rate of pay is 150 feet 000J. That sounds like something they could have done themselves. What's the catch? Naruto asked curiously. This wasn't something someone would fork out so much money for normally. The villagers have a belief that a god moved in there a few years ago and has apparently left. According to the belief, the god harvested gold from within the mountain and piled it in a secret treasure room deep within the cave. They don't want to anger the god themselves if he is still living there. Levi replied with a smile, explaining the situation as easily as possible. And if he's moved out, they believe that he created an army of monsters that he left behind to protect his gold treasure until he is ready to collect it. The monsters are ready to destroy anyone who enters the cave to protect the treasure. People have gone up before but haven't been seen since. So they believe it's cursed. Levi smiled even further, not noticing how Jet and Droy visibly paled at the mention of God, monsters and cursed. Interesting. Sounds like a lot of fun. Naruto grinned, flashing his set of pearly white teeth. You're not scared at all? Levi asked curiously, smiling when Naruto shook his head, the smile never fading from his face. Wow, you're so brave, Naru-san. I like brave guys, and no wonder Lu-chan likes you too. The smile left Naruto's face, his eyes went as wide as saucepans. What? Naruto could not be heard by Levi over the sound of Jet and Droy, both of whom had puffed out their chests, spouting about how they were unafraid of the mountain and its silly god and sirs and monsters as well. Ah, finally you came. A man with short brown hair wearing a long earth-brown robe with golden linings approached them. Welcome to our village of Deriva. I am Anhalteran, mayor of Deriva. Hello. I'm Naruto and this is Levi, Jet and Droy. We're here from Fairy Tail on behalf of the job request you sent. Naruto replied, pointing to himself and his 3 companions respectively when he named them. Yes. Well, I will give you a brief explanation of the job before I let you take off. I know how you mages like to be on the go. Anhalteran chuckled loudly, his voice full of joy. For years our small village has lived in the shadow of the mountain, prospering on the rivers that flow down it, the crops that grow on its fertile soil. But suddenly, near 7 years ago, they suddenly began to move us along with the. It wasn't fast, but it could easily be distinguished that we were moving faster than the rest of the world. We assumed that the only cause of this was the work of something higher than us. A god. He entered the mountains, his presence and activities there shifting the mountains faster than usual. They suddenly began to drift. We had always found fragments of gold on the mountains, so we assumed that was what he was harvesting for. Suddenly we became a tourist site, thousands of people coming to see and ride the drifting mountains. I will not deny we have profited greatly from it, but we always tried to appease the god, to keep him with us. Yet suddenly, last year the mountains began slowing again, still faster than the rest of the world, but not as fast as they used to be. We believe the god has indeed left, and kept the mountains moving as a sign to himself where he has left the treasure to pick up from later. We would like to investigate if this is true, and if it is collect the treasure to keep it safe until the god returns to collect it. So that's our job. Just find out if there's a stash of gold up there. Jet looked up to the mountains, enormous masses of land. Thousands and thousands of feet into the air from where he was standing. Yes, that is all. And the pay will remain 150 feet 000J, with possible interest depending on the time of the job's completion. Anhultaran beamed wildly, bowing respectfully to all four of them. Well then we better not waste any more time. Naruto beamed back in return, turning to Levi, Jet and Droy. Let's roll. Come, the entry cave is up this way. Jet called down to the other three mages making up the team. He had spent the last couple of hours patrolling the mountains with his high-speed magic, covering the entire mountain range whilst the rest of his team rested. He eventually found the cave entry into the mountain and formulated the quickest, easiest route to it from the village for his teammates. I gotta say, God's leg definitely has its uses. Naruto smiled to Levi, who walked next to him. The taller Droy walked steadily behind them, eavesdropping into their conversation and scowling jealously at Naruto. It does, although it can be a bit annoying sometimes. Jet can't do anything slowly because of it. He has to do things fast. Levi remembered having to try and keep up with Jet crossing miles and miles of stretches of land, some with the most horrendous sceneries, such as deserts and swamps. Well, I think it's great. I don't like staying still for too long either. There's a lot more fun in moving around. Naruto beamed widely again, climbing up the mountain as if it was nothing. Yeah, but didn't you ever hear, slow and steady wins the race? Levi asked curiously, grabbing Naruto's extended hand once he had offered it to help pull her up the mountain. Well yeah, but take animals for example. There's predators and prey. You think slow and steady will help the prey get away? You think slow and steady will help the predators catch them? Naruto asked, climbing a little further up. Jet sat near the top on a mountain ledge, watching the other three climb slowly. But we are not animals, we're humans, mages. Levi responded, growing slightly irritated at Naruto's good responses. She had prided herself on being smart and a good speaker. She had never met her match before. Still, there will come a time when you must run, and there will come a time when you must hunt. Naruto responded, locking eyes with Levi. Gone was any humor in his eyes. They held an aura of seriousness. It slightly frightened her. What has he experienced? Levi asked herself. The way he spoke about the matter, it sounded like it came from first-hand experience. And what are a group of fairies doing in such a hazardous environment? A woman with light brown hair tied into a sideways ponytail and dark brown eyes and sporting oval glasses called out in an amused, almost mocking chuckle. She wore a green dress with movable wings on the back of it, currently vibrating like insect wings. She wore navy blue stockings along with white sandals, and was carrying a feathered purple fan with 3 hearts on it. A fairy tale stamp was printed on her right bosom, the stamp being black in color. Evergreen. Levi called out in surprise, identifying the mystery woman to Naruto. What's this? A new member? Evergreen strutted confidently over to Naruto, ignoring Levi and Droy. She eyed him at point-blank range. He's got a decent look to him, but it's power that captivates a girl like me. She smirked mischievously. So tell me, what are you doing up here? His name is Naruto Namikaze. He joined a few weeks ago. Levi spoke sweetly and politely, despite the fact she was being utterly ignored. We're on a job, Naruto replied bluntly, taking a few steps away from the greed-clad girl. To investigate if there is any treasure hidden in the drifting mountains. Treasure? The word seemed to spark her interest. I have just finished the job I was on. Perhaps I shall accompany you on this job. We can get to know each other better that way. Evergreen spoke again, snuggling up next to Naruto. I wouldn't count on it. Naruto replied with a long, heavy sigh. He didn't like the way this girl acted. She acted as if she ruled all of them. Slipping his way out of her grasp easily, he continued on up the mountain. Come with us if you must. We might need an extra pair of hands. Evergreen grumbled, flying up to the top to stand with Jet. The other three were not far behind. Jet helping each one up as they reached the mouth of the cave. The group of 5 stood in front of the eerie darkness. No noise came from the cave. Naruto took one step closer, Standing in the middle of the group, he gazed hard down into the cave. If he had learned anything from his travels, it was that darkness and silence always spelled disaster. Let's move out, but keep on your guard. Just don't get in my way, Droy. This is my chance to prove myself to Levi. Jet spoke confidently to his partner, splitting up from the rest of the group to search more of the cave at a quicker rate. Naruto had chose to go off alone, allowing the other four to pair up, exclaiming that he is never alone. Droy scoffed loudly in amusement at his orange-haired companion. That's funny, you speak as if you have a chance with her. We both know that it is my strength she admires more than yours. Oh yeah. Jet spoke accusingly, stopping in his movements to press his forehead against Droy's, glowering intensely at him. Droy mirrored the action as his response, glaring back at Jet angrily. They remained like this for a few moments, neither seeming to want to give him. Once I've showed how more valuable I am, my only competition for Levi's affections will be Naruto. Jet spoke before continuing on down the dark tunnel. Droy stood motionless for a few seconds, staring in confusion at Jet's leaving back. Naruto isn't of any competition for Levi. I'll admit when I first met him I thought he could be. Levi seemed to really like him, but you remember what Levi whispered to us back at the guild? Jet stopped for a moment, allowing the black-haired mage to catch up with him. He thought back to when they were at the guild. Suddenly the memories came back to him. Oh yeah. Flashback. These are Droy and Jet. Levi beamed, running around to throw her arms around their necks. Naruto noticed how they both seemed to loosen up with the physical contact with the girl. We're in a team together, we're called Shadow Gear. We've been a team for a long time. Cool, what's up Jet and Droy? Naruto nodded his head towards both of them, giving them a smaller smile than he would usually give strangers. He didn't like the way they were treating him at first. Nothing much. They both seemed grumbled back together in an annoyed tone. Levi suddenly brought the duo down to her height by the ears. Be nice to him, both of you. Levi spoke in a hushed voice to the both of them, frowning at them slightly. This is Liu Chan's boyfriend, you know the one I was telling you about. Both of their faces radiated with glee at the news. Any suspicion against Naruto possible making a move on their Levi had disappeared. In unison they grinned wide, both of them throwing an arm around his neck. How are you, Naruto? Shadow Gear was just about to go on a job, and Levi wanted to ask if you would like to come along seeing as you and her are both friends of Lucy. She wants to get to know you better. They both spoke in incredibly happy, excited voices. That was the greatest news they had ever been told. Flashback end, yeah. Gotta admit I was worried that he and Levi would become attracted to each other. It was really good to find out he already has a girlfriend. Jet sighed heavily in relief, recalling the excellent news. Still, gotta hand it to him. Naruto got himself one hell of a catch. I can't believe I didn't see it earlier. After all, he and Lucy are rather friendly with each other all the time. Droy laughed loudly as he continued along the darkness with his friend. Evergreen and Levi walked side by side in the silence. The tension between the two females was obvious. They had never exchanged long conversation between them. They had never even spent a decent amount of time in each other's company. But Naruto had split the group up in order to search more of the cave quicker. Jet and Droy leaving as one team and Naruto continuing through the cave himself. Evergreen's loud exhaling broke the silence. So, this Naruto, never seen his face before. How recent a member is he? She asked in order to spark up a conversation with the petite brunette. But there was another reason behind her motives for asking about Naruto. Laxus liked to be informed about all new members of the guild. To know how strong they were, and if they would prove themselves an embarrassment to the name Fairy Tail. I think he joined a couple of weeks ago, around the same time as Liu Chan. Levi replied honestly. He and Lucy appeared at the same time with Natsu, but she had never seen them work together. But there's that factor between the two of them. She added in her mind with a childish giggle. Really? And what are his abilities? Evergreen didn't dodge around the question, she asked it bluntly. This Naruto, he held himself with pride and confidence, a type that was only visible in people who had full confidence in their powers. It was a similar way that Laxus held himself. He's got quite a few magics. Levi replied with a smile. Completely unaware of Evergreen's ulterior intentions. The first one he has is kind of like Liu Chan's stellar spirit summoning, but his is more of a lost magic version of it. He uses Shengshao entity summoning. I haven't seen any of his summons yet, but supposedly they're very powerful. I have read about them in a book once. The other two he has in one called Flash Step, which is a teleportation magic. The final one is a cell I've never heard of before. He calls it rosin, and he creates pure, concentrated spiraling magic in order to attack. Pure magic. Preposterous. Evergreen snorted mockingly in return. There's no such thing anymore. Magic must be concentrated through a medium, such as an element or transformation. Do you not understand the intricity involved with having to use magic simply in the form of pure magic? I thought that too, until her showed it to us. Levi replied honest. He held out his palm, and this spiraling sphere of pure magic appeared in his palm. Then he smashed it into a rock, blowing it to bits in milliseconds. It was incredible. Laxus must know about this. Evergreen thought with a determination. He could be the one. He reminds me of Laxus, how he takes control of a group so easily. She thought in honesty. The similarities between the two blondes was very visible. He may have some incredibly abilities, but he will never be Laxus. Laxus. Levi thought with interest as well as sadness. She remembered the strain and distance between Laxus and Makarov, grandfather and grandson. Perhaps this was an opportunity for her to find out about the renegade grandson of the master, in order to give the master some peace of mind. Laxus. How is he? She asked simply. Stronger than ever. Evergreen replied quickly and smugly. He will become the 4th guild master in no time. His abilities are second to none. Evergreen left so many questions for her to ask, but Levi could tell that she would be answering none of them. She could see it in her eyes. Stop. Evergreen's hand jutted out in front of her, stopping her movements and train of thoughts. Look ahead. Evergreen nodded down the tunnel. Looking, Levi saw a dim light in the distance, eerily glowing through the darkness. Levi turned towards Evergreen, whose eyes had narrowed in the direction. Follow me. She practically ordered, beginning to make her way towards the distant light. I wish I had a better incentive as to what I'm actually supposed to be look for in this cave, and where I should find it. Naruto muttered to himself as he slowly tread through the darkness of the winding caverns of the cave. Each one of his steps echoing as he moved further and further through the pitch black. They had split off into groups. Naruto chose to continue alone, allowing Jet and Droy, and Evergreen and Levi to partner up. Sometime he preferred to work alone. His spirits were his true companions. He worked better with one of them than he did with anyone else. His movements stopped as he heard a low, almost childlike chuckling in the darkness. He looked around in surprise, trying to locate its source. Who's there? He called out into the darkness, hoping to hear a reply. The treading of footsteps, the quiet breathing they might give out. How silly of you. A voice replied in an amused tone, the voice resonating echoes through the cave. Treading so far into the darkness with no way of locating the light. Show yourself. Naruto shouted into the darkness once again. Suddenly a lit torch was thrown at him from the darkness. He caught it easily, the fire lighting up a small portion of the cave he was in. Instantly Naruto looked in the direction of which the torch was thrown. He couldn't see much, only a pair of pointed-toe shiny dress shoes on the crowd, standing with the weight leaning more on one foot. It was a leisurely, calm stance that Naruto recognized. And suddenly a pair of gleaming eyes pierced through the darkness. The iris of the eyes were odd. The right eye was a glowing deep ocean blue, darker than his own blue eye color, like the dark depths of the ocean. The left eye was a gleaming yellow, a stark comparison to the right eye. It glowed much brighter than the right eye. I'm happy. We finally get the chance to meet, Naruto. The shape of the eyes narrowed, possessing a happy set to them. Naruto could only think that this person was smiling. It was obviously a male, the pitch and tone of the voice suggested that. Yet his tone was laid back, unafraid of Naruto or the darkness around him. Who are you? Naruto near shouted at the person, anger growing in his voice. How did this man know his name? Surely your spirits must have spoken about me. I am Spedizy. The man introduced himself. From how his head moved, it showed that he gave a small, courteous nod of his head with the introduction of his name. You're Spedizy? Naruto replied in honest surprise. He hadn't expected that he would meet the man in such circumstances. I have heard of you, only a small amount, but you did manipulate Yiro into almost destroying that town in Meguma. Really? Spedizy responded with slight surprise of his own, followed by a short, dry chuckle. So what have you heard? That you are a villain. Naruto was extremely blunt with his response. His eyes narrowed at the man hiding in the darkness. He watched as the man's eyes moved even more to match a large smile, before he resonated another dry giggle. "Who isn't a villain in this world?" Spedisi responded as he exhaled out his breathing, calming his laughing fits. "Even those who claim they want to achieve peace are themselves narcissistic egomaniacs who believe they can change everyone in the world. They want everyone to behave themselves in accordance to what they believe is peace. Is that not an attempt at world domination?" Spedisi asked with another giggle, yet his voice held a serious tone to it. "Even your precious spirits are villains, Naruto. They betrayed me in the past as well. They were once my friends as well, but they turned their backs on me as soon as they found appropriate." "What are you talking about?" Naruto's eyes narrowed in skepticism at the man. His spirits, with or without the inclusion of Rigen depending on how you looked at it, had always been his trusted companions and friends. He had earned their respect and they had always had his in return. "That doesn't matter now," Spedisi responded in a relaxed, easy voice, brushing off any worries. "I have gained the power to destroy them all with a flick of my wrist if I wanted to. Even Rigen would fall against me now." "If that's the case, why do you insist on hiding in the shadows?" Naruto smirked idly at the odd-eyed man, whose smile fell at the small jab at him. His eyes held a small amount of annoyance and hatred, before he let out another echoing chuckle. "Cheeky brat." Spedisi laughed loudly, before calming considerably. "The only thing of worth in this cave is back the way you came. I left a small present for you in this cave as well. If you go back, you'll find it." Spedisi's eyes moved to smile one last time. "Until we met again." He spoke before a splash echoed through the cave. Where his feet once were was a pool of ink, slowly creeping towards Naruto. Naruto stared at the puddle of ink, before looking back in the direction he came. "If Spedisi tells me to go back." He suddenly turned to the direction he was already going. "I will continue moving forwards," he assured himself in his mind. Stepping around the puddle, Naruto continued on with the torch in hand, guiding him through the dark of the caves, onto whatever fate held in store for him at the end of this tunnel. Naruto stopped in his tracks as he stared at what was ahead. His interaction with Spedisi was long behind him. He had traveled further and further into the cave until he reached this dead end. But it wasn't a dead end, so to speak. The tunnel expanded into a circular small room, completely empty save for a desk made of stone at the far end from the entrance. Naruto approached the stone desk. Over it was 2 torches, which he promptly lit, giving himself that extra light. On the desk was a book, looking as if it was ready to fall apart. It looked years old, the cover was tattered and damaged. Carefully Naruto picked it up, gently blowing off the dust covering the front. There was no name, no title, no indication whose this book was and what it was about. Easiest thing to do is to check its contents. Naruto nodded in his mind, picking a page in the book. "I'll start with the last page. If this is a diary, the most recent entry will be there." He flicked to the final page of the book. Sure enough, it was in fact a journal, yet no dates were given for each entry. So Naruto had no idea how old this book could be. He read the text of the final page under the flickering light of the fiery torches. "It is time I leave this place, my home for the past 6 years. Here I have honed everything that makes me, me. I entered these caverns frail, and weak, and scared, and small. Now I leave them with strength. A new home has been offered to me, one that I intend to accept. I have already come to terms with the idea that I would have to leave this home of mine someday, but I'm worried. I built these caverns, what will become of them once I leave? So I have left my statues in this cave to forever protect what I have accomplished here. They are my precious treasures, proof that my life has meant something so far. I pray that they will last for an eternity." Incredible. Naruto thought with utter surprise in his mind, exhaling deeply as he slowly closed the book once again. Someone did actually live up here, and what's more, they created these caves. Naruto stared in astonishment at the book for a few more moments, until a high-pitched scream echoed through the caves. Naruto's head snapped up quickly, looking down the entrance to the room. That sounded like Levi, he muttered, before running out of the room, darting back down the corridors following the recurring screams. Naruto charged into the large circular room. Sure enough, Levi and Evergreen were the source of the scream, both slightly bruised and covered in dirt. Levi was leaning against a wall cowering whilst Evergreen gritted her teeth, kneeling on one knee with her fist pressed into the ground. "My stone eyes do nothing against these things," she screamed out in frustration. Naruto looked across to where she was looking, and was utterly surprised he didn't see these things first. It was an army of statues, gargoyle statues made of stone, and they were moving towards the two girls. They didn't move as he thought statues would, they walked quite comfortably, without strain or sluggish movements. The mass army were disfigured in ways, some shabby and broken, with chunks of themselves missing. Others, on the other hand, were perfect, every detail was immaculate. Yet they all seemed to hold the same design, two designs as a matter of fact. One was a smaller design, with large, menacing, bat-like wings, their mouths agape with their fangs baring, their eyes forming sinister, pupilless stares of fury. Claws were bared and ready to rip apart flesh. There was no clothing detailed on this form, allowing the detail of a bony body to shine through. Their stone wings flapped heavily through the air, causing them to hover their weighty bodies above the rest of the stone army. The other design were larger, if only be a couple of feet. With a much bulkier physique, these statues stood dressed in a glorious knight's armor, dressed from the neck down in armor detail befitting a royal warrior. However, the face was still exposed, like the previous form. The mouth was agape with fangs bared, accursed fury-filled eyes, bald head and pointy ears. Instead of wings, these statues held a variety of stone weapons, stone axes, stone swords, stone polearms, stone spears, stone maces, and even stone scythes. What's going on? Jet and Droy suddenly rushed into the room, probably hearing the two females' screams, and hurried to Levi's location. Their eyes instantly went wide in unison at the sight of the marching army of stone gargoyle statues. Again in unison they both let out high-pitched screams of terror, louder than what either of the two females made, before jumping to Levi's side, one on each side of her. Naruto looked behind him and sighed. Looks like I'll have to do this by myself, he thought with a slightly annoyed expression. Before he looked down at the journal in his hand. I'll look into this later, he mentally noted to himself as he placed the book in the small bag around his waist, before turning to the stone army. If you can fight, then fight. He spoke aloud to the other four, taking more of a battle stance, drawing a summon disc and his summon gun. Who put you in charge? He was caught by surprise when Evergreen stood next to him, a smirk on her face as she looked towards the stone army. Just because my stone eyes have no affect doesn't mean I'm down for the count. I have many more defenses at the ready. Naruto smirked in return to her, giving her a small nod. Looking behind him, he saw that Levi, Jet and Droy seemed to have composed themselves. Now all three of them had stood up, together as a team. Naruto nodded at them before turning back to the gargoyles. Let's begin. Flash step. Over the horizon. Naruto called before instantly teleporting across the battlefield, floating weightlessly in midair over a flying gargoyle statue now brought to life. Rosin. Gone. He yelled, forming a sphere of pure spiraling magic in his palm before drilling it into the back of the statue gargoyle, destroying it instantly, before spotting another gargoyle underneath, allowing himself to drop and drill the sphere through the larger ground gargoyle statue, destroying it as well. Naruto stopped momentarily, looking around at the scene. The small room had been filled with dust and rubble. Overhead, he and Evergreen took control of the flying gargoyles. Evergreen using her ability to fly with her fairy dust magic, fairy machine gun. Leprechaun to annihilate them quickly. Solid script. Rope. Levi called from beneath him, created the word rope in the air, created from rope. Jet quickly took hold of him, and with his god's leg, ran quickly around 20 soldier gargoyles and bundling them together. Droy, now, he screamed towards his black-haired partner. Got it. Droy replied quickly, throwing his live coal seeds into the mix of gargoyles before slapping the palms of his hands together. Hammer plant. Large vines with plant hammers at the top emerged from the ground, quickly pummeling the 20 gargoyles into rubble. Levi. Go again with solid script. Droy shouted to the small blue-haired girl, having her repeat their team battle formation. It's a good thing these gargoyles are weak and already broken, we're taking them out quickly. Naruto smirked victoriously as he destroyed another flying gargoyle with rosin. Just then a loud zombie-like moan was heard. They all turned to the source. From the stairs came a massive statue gargoyle, every step shaking the ground they stood on. Standing at least 25 feet tall, this monster held a large scepter tipped with a hammer-like ball, unlike the other conventional weapons the smaller gargoyles used. dressed in armor-like details with a long stone cape stuck in a fixed position surrounding it. On its head was a deformed crown, with small spikes digging into its head from the base of the crown. As it approached, it swung its massive scepter towards Levi, who was unprepared for the attack. Shit! Naruto thought with worry, staring directly at Levi. Flash step. Target. Levi. He quickly teleported to her location, having enough time to throw her out the way, yet not enough time to move himself. He took the fall force of the swing from the scepter, launching him across the hall into the wall of the cave. The king gargoyle hit several of its subordinates, destroying them instantly. The king gargoyle swung its scepter again, trying to hit the others, but the dodged effectively, being more ready for its attack. The attack collided with the cave's walls, shaking the entire hall. Large chunks of rock began falling from the ceiling. It's gonna cause a cave-in if it isn't dealt with quickly. Naruto grunted as he stood back up, taking out his contract gun. Load platinum disc. He shouted as he took out his newest disc and loaded it into the gun. Summon. 11th year Zushi. Yiro the dog. A bright light shone from the gun. As the light faded, he found that everything about Yiro had changed. He presented a new form to Naruto, the one that so far seemed the most human. The fur had left his face, save for short blue hair on the top of his head, with a stripe of black fur. The blue hair was long enough to resemble 2 ears. A black mask covered his red eyes and shorter muzzle, revealing only the cheeks, mouth and parts of the forehead, revealing tan skin. Yellow fur covered his torso with a large spike in the center of his chest. Sleek black fur covered his shoulders and forearms, where another 2 spikes grew from the back of his hands, as well as his legs from his knee downwards. His upper arm and thighs were covered by sleek blue fur. His body was very lean, not nearly as muscular as his other form, and was also much shorter in comparison, now standing around the same height as Naruto himself. Thank you for summoning me, Naruto. I was beginning to worry about your safety against these things. I can feel Spedizzi's curses radiating from them. Yiro spoke in a cool, calm voice, yet his brow furrowed in what appeared to be anger. We need to defeat it quickly. Yiro, can you help? Naruto asked as he moved to stand next to the dog spirit. Yes. Yiro nodded affirmatively. This will be a good opportunity to practice what you taught me. Yiro smirked, overflowing with confidence. Naruto grinned himself, remembering his last conversation with Yiro. Flashback. So what did you want, Yiro? Naruto looked at the small dog in front of him, being taken away from Lucy by the small dog who made a request from the blonde a while ago. I would ask you for a favor, Naruto. Yiro replied, before closing its small eyes. A bright light enveloped him. Naruto watched the small dog as it suddenly grew in size, moving to stand on its hind legs only. As the light faded, he found that everything about Yiro had changed. He presented a new form to Naruto, the one that so far seemed the most human. The fur had left his face, save for short blue hair on the top of his head, with a stripe of black fur. The blue hair was long enough to resemble 2 ears. A black mask covered his red eyes and shorter muzzle, revealing only the cheeks, mouth and parts of the forehead, revealing tan skin. Yellow fur covered his torso with a large spike in the center of his chest. Sleek black fur covered his shoulders and forearms, where another 2 spikes grew from the back of his hands, as well as his legs from his knee downwards. His upper arm and thighs were covered by sleek blue fur. His body was very lean, not nearly as muscular as his other form, and was also much shorter in comparison, now standing around the same height as Naruto himself. How did you do that? Naruto asked with interest. Yiro had now presented 3 very different forms to himself. My main magic, species. Yiro replied in a very calm, collected voice. It is a very complex transformation magic, much more different than regular transformations or even takeovers. I can morph different aspects of my body to suit any battle. This form is my speed form. It gives me my highest possible speed, as well as uncanny reflexes. However, it negates strength, pitting me weaker against foes who can match my speed but also have strength, such as Wing when he uses burst. He explained quickly, yet in detail. What I wanted to ask Naruto is if that magic you used against me whilst I was under Spedizzi's influence, Rasen. Is it possible to learn it? It would dramatically increase this form's power. Naruto's eyes widened with surprise at the request, before he beamed widely. Of course I'll teach you it. You share your power with me, it's only fair I do the same. Flashback end. Let's go. Naruto shouted. With incredible speed, Naruto and Yiro sped around the cave. Both of them with Rasen Gon charged in their hands. They attacked different parts of the 25-foot-tall gargoyle. Naruto attacked its right hand, yet only destroyed up to the elbow. However, the gargoyle lost the scepter with the attack. Yiro drilled his into its left leg. His wasn't as strong or perfect yet as Naruto's, leaving a large hole in its leg rather than destroying it. Naruto jumped high in the air, drilling another Rasen Gon into its chest, illuminating the gargoyle's face. That was when Naruto noticed it, the jewel in the center of its crown. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before. The gargoyle moved to grab him with its remaining hand, but the blonde mage quickly jumped away. Naruto placed his right palm behind his left hand, extending his arms out. Rasen Teiho, he called. The spiraling sphere of pure magic grew in his hands, being larger than the usual size of Gon. Instead of moving, the sphere extending into a horizontal pillar of pure magic, striking the gargoyle on the left shoulder, enough to completely blow off its head and arm, crumbling the rest of the gargoyle to pieces. Its head flew towards Naruto, and he quickly grabbed it, before a terrible shaking could be felt. It was as if the place was programmed to destroy itself with the destruction of the king gargoyle. Walls began to crumble and crack, larger chunks of rock collapsed from the ceiling. Yiro, go back! Naruto yelled towards the spirit, which nodded before disappearing in a faint light. Everyone get out, the place is gonna cave in, he called to the rest of his team. None of them wasted any time. They all sped through the cave, the collapsing ceiling not far behind them. Luckily the pathways were straightforward, quickly directing them towards the bright light of the open sky. They jumped out of the cave's entrance just as it collapsed, forever closing off the cave to trespassers again. That was close. Jet sighed loudly, laughing quietly in relief. Say, Naruto, why did you keep that thing's head? He looked towards the blonde with skepticism, seeing the king gargoyle's head in the blonde's arms. However, Naruto didn't respond. He looked at the jewel on the monster's crown. A tortoise, with a snake coiled around it, was present on the front. How bizarre. He stared in confusion at the design. His fingers moved towards the jewel, and with slight difficulty he plucked it from its stone casing. It was flat, just like his discs, made out of a peculiar blue diamond-like substance. On the opposite side of the disc, it had the symbol for something known as black tortoise. He casually dropped the head of the gargoyle, staring at the disc with awe and wonder. Just what is it? Your fighting skills and natural leadership have impressed me. Evergreen spoke to him, breaking him out of his fixated trance upon the disc. Something that isn't easy to accomplish. The blonde only looked back at her, nodding once. Come on, he called to the entire group. We should head back to the town. We all went in different directions in the cave, so we searched the entire place. The only thing that was in the cave was a room in the center of the cave filled with gargoyles made out of stone. But they came alive and started to attack us. Our fight with them caused a cave-in, but there was definitely no treasure in the cave and no signs of mining for treasure. It appeared to be just a regular old cave. Levi explained the situation to the village's leader, Anhiltern, who appeared suspicious of the story as he listened to it. And you're sure there was no treasure at the cave? He mused as he stared at the team. Naruto subconsciously tightened his grip on the disc, whilst his other hand moved to his back pocket, gently touching the journal book he found in the cave. Positive. There was nothing there. The blonde replied for the group after a few seconds. That's a pity, makes me wonder if you even deserve a payment if you came back empty-handed. The old man spoke to himself out loud, stroking his chin contemplatively as he thought on the matter. Wait a minute. The blonde spoke again, his brow lowering with annoyance. The request explained that the job was to explore and search the cave. There was no specification on returning with treasure. If you wanted treasure returning, you should have stated in the request. The matter of fact is that we performed what was required from us as stated in the request, and we put our life on the line in that job. We deserve a payment. Naruto spoke with authority, his blue eyes flaring slightly with anger. His stare locked onto the old man, and it was something that Anhiltern did not want to challenge. Very well, follow me and you'll receive your payment. 150 feet 000 J split between the four of us, makes 37 feet 500 J each. Naruto spoke as he evenly spread out the money on the table in the team's train booth, setting up 4 even stacks of jewels. By the way, when did Evergreen leave? I thought she would have wanted part of the money? Naruto added the question as he picked a stack up and put it back into his pocket. She left when we went with Anhalterin to get our payment. I suppose she wanted to make her own, quicker way back to the guild. She is quite reclusive actually. I doubt she wanted to spend an entire train journey with us as well. Levi replied with a cheery complexion as Team Shadow Gear pooled their cuts into one stack before Levi picked the whole sum from the table. Naruto shrugged his shoulders after carefully listening to Levi's explanation. Oh well, it's not like I'll probably ever see her again if that's the case. He spoke with a small smile, before fishing through his pocket, taking out the diamond blue disc once again, flickering against the light that shone through the window. Naruto, just what is that? Droi asked with interest, his head nodding towards the small item in Naruto's hand. Naruto's eyes did not move from the small disc. I have no idea, he replied honestly, still fixated upon the small item. But it looks a lot like my summoning tools. I'm going to research it when I get back to my apartment tonight. Laxus. Evergreen stood staring at the back of her leader, her idol as he was sat down, his long cape pooling over the chair he was sat on, spiky headphones covering his ears, and spiky blonde hair being seen on his head. I have found you your final member. She saw how his head raised slightly. It appeared that even he was surprised at the news. Ever, you, Fried, or Bixlow have never spoken those words towards me before. He didn't turn his head to meet her eyes in conversation. None of you have ever deemed anyone worthy enough to fill that missing member. The mage must be something special. He is, Laxus. Evergreen responded with a smirk. He has some interesting magic, a form of stellar spirit summoning. Stellar spirits. Laxus scoffed at the magic. Not interested, those mages are weak. You don't understand, Laxus. I've never seen stellar spirits like his. His didn't use keys to open the gate, his used a gun. He called it Shungshao entity summoning. Evergreen responded with slight fear, worried that she might have wasted Laxus's valuable time. And what else? Laxus suddenly spoke after a few seconds of silence, as if contemplating the new knowledge. His head turned to the right, revealing a large lightning bolt-shaped scar on his face, going over his right eye down his cheek. Evergreen sighed in relief at his reply. He has a teleportation magic. Flash step. Even my eyes were unable to keep up with him. But his last magic was the most incredible. Rosin. He made raw pure magic spiral from nowhere in his hand. Its power was devastating. Manipulating pure magic is impossible. Ever. You know that. Laxus's whole body rocketed up, turning around quickly to glare angrily at her. Magic must be channeled through a medium, light, fire, water, wood, even the body itself. But the kid did it though, I watched him do it. Evergreen jutted back quickly in fear. He has talent, and he is powerful, Laxus. Give him a test, and he will pass it. Laxus seemed to calm at the words, before a cool, calm smirk appeared on his face. Very well, I shall give him a test to prove his capabilities. Where is he? Well, that's the best news of all. He's already in Fairy Tail. He joined only a couple of weeks ago. Evergreen spoke happily. Laxus's happiness was her happiness. Laxus appeared to grin at the news even further. Excellent, that shall be his test. I hear whispers that they plan to attack the guild soon. Testing himself against them will prove just how strong he is. He finished with a dark chuckle. Tell me, what is his name? Evergreen smirked in response to the question. His name is Naruto Namikaze. Naruto lay comfortably on his bed in his apartment, one hand resting behind his head. The other held the new diamond-like blue disc between the thumb and index finger. He stared in fascination at the small disc. He could make out the picture on it, a picture of a tortoise with a snake coiled around it. On the back was 2 symbols, winter and north. A life will have the answers for this. Naruto thought conclusively about the all-knowing snake. Taking out his contract gun and her disc. Load platinum disc. He pointed the gun directly in front of himself. Summon. 6th year Sishi. A life the snake. He fired the gun, yet nothing happened. He fired again, yet still the door did not open. What's happening? He stared down with confusion towards the gun. Before a powerful light fired out of the gun, enveloping the entire room with white light, blinding Naruto. He could make nothing out from the room, everything went white. Naruto. His eyes widened at the voice. As the light dimmed he saw Regan, floating effortlessly in his room. his armor completely equipped, hiding his face from view. "We must speak." Naruto immediately understood Rigen's meaning. Rigen must speak, he must listen. This has not happened for many centuries, one of the Benitoide discs falling into a summoner's hands. "So this is what this is? A Benitoide disc?" Naruto spoke, raising the disc into view of Rigen, who nodded once in return. "The Benitoide discs are at a level even beyond his platinum disc summons, only 4 of them exist, and for the longest of times, I believed that they had been lost to the ages. Yet by coincidence, or by sheer dumb luck, you, the first Shungshao entity summoner in 400 years, finds one," Rigen commented. Naruto marveled at the small disc in front of him. "Is it really that rare?" He spoke in a hushed whisper filled with awe. Once again, Rigen gave one small nod. "And their power is beyond imagination. These spirits are beyond you at this moment in time. Forming the necessary bond between them is extremely difficult. Only the most courageous of mages, only those most at peace with themselves can harness their true power. Can you tell me anything else about them? What are they? What can they do?" Naruto began bombarding questions at the leader of the Shungshao Zodiacs. Rigen only shook his head once. "That is as far as my knowledge on them goes, and don't bother asking a life. I have already instructed her not to discuss the topic with you. You are not ready to pursue them, not yet anyway." Naruto's eyes widened slightly, before a small smile grew on his face. "So is that all you came to tell me, Rigen?" "There is more." Rigen nodded affirmatively. "Times have changed. Spedizi has begun to make faster, more unpredictable movements. You are not safe, Naruto, while Spedizi continues to roam free without restraint. Yet despite that, you have ran into 2 of his schemes, even met him face to face, yet you have managed to elude his grasp. A life has felt his movements. We know it is you he seeks. He has become fixated upon you, and he will not stop until he has claimed you for his own." "What do you mean, claimed me?" Naruto asked with much confusion. "And just who is this Spedizi? You spirits have some bad history with him, and he told me that you betrayed him in the past. Just what is going on?" "Perhaps another time," Rigen commented quietly, not even attempting to answer his questions. "Spedizi has begun to move, and you need protection, that is all that matters. I know I said to face me when you deemed yourself ready, but times has changed. I believe you are ready to undertake my challenge." Naruto's eyes widened with unimaginable shock as he stared at the dragon summon. "Your challenge?" Rigen nodded once again. "Yes. My challenge is simple, but perhaps the most difficult challenge of all. This is my challenge." The young blonde boy wandered through a tomb. He had no idea where he was. But it was better than where he left. The Hartphilia mansion, a place where he had lived and served for 3 years. Taken in by the matron of the house, Layla Hartphilia, and her death last week meant his safety there was uncertain. "You're nothing but a street rat. Plucked from the streets on a whim of Layla's kindness." He remembered the master of the house's words. Jude Hartphilia had always disliked him, doubting his capabilities, and only allowed him to stay because of Miss Layla. When she passed away, there was nothing to stop Jude returning him to the streets. "Promise me, Naruto, promise me you will look after my daughter, Lucy. I knew the moment I met you that you will do amazing things in the world. Please keep her safe." He remembered the finals words Miss Layla had said to him. Even on her deathbed she thought of her daughter first. "I'm sorry, Miss Layla, I can't protect Miss Lucy now. I'm just not strong enough yet, but one day I will find her. I never go back on my promises." He entered a large room in the tomb, what he assumed would be the center. In the middle of the room was just a box. Carefully he made his way across the room towards it, until he knelt before the box. Opening it gently, he discovered inside was a golden gun, with a weird part that looked like a slot entering the barrel. Next to it was a shiny platinum disc. He picked both up carefully. On one side of the disc was a stylized design of a dragon, on the other was the symbol for dragon, and Naruto stared in wonder at the small object. He noted that the disc was the perfect size for the slot in the gun. He loaded the disc into the slot and pushed it closed, before pointing the gun in front of him, pulling the trigger and firing. A bright light enveloped the room instead of a tremendous bang being heard. The small boy was blinded instead of being deafened. "Is this a joke?" The blond boy heard a disappointed voice ring out. When he opened his eyes he saw a man, dressed head to toe in armor, appeared. His armor was spiked in a shining blue and gold color. the feet shaped like claws digging into the earth. His helmet was tipped with a long red fabric flowing behind him. 3 long thorn whips of steel extended from in between the shoulders of the armor. The Shengshao summoner has been dead for 400 years, and now the first one since then is nothing but a small boy, who does not understand the power he has just been gifted. Who are you calling a boy? Naruto responded with anger, standing back up on his feet. My name is Naruto Namikaze. Remember it. And I might not understand what just happened here, so go away then if you are not happy. I don't need you. The mysterious man stood silent, only looking down towards the boy through his helmet. The strength of this boy's heart, I can feel it radiating. With time, he may grow into some more powerful than I can imagine with that kind of strength already dormant within him. You are far too young and unready to undertake my challenge. The man spoke out loud now towards the young boy. However, I will allow you to prove your worth. Search for the other Shengshao entity spirits, and when you are ready, come to me again for my challenge. He finished before disappearing in a bright light, the disc popping back out of the gun. Checkmate. Naruto smiled victoriously as he moved his castle piece, locking Liru's king in the back 2 lines of the board, the blonde's queen piece guarding the other line. Naruto was so lost in the hours-long game he had completely forgotten about the stench of the dirty sewer he was currently sat in. Grime and sewage covered the cylindrical walls. Even now he sat on a damp dirty box whilst undertaking Liru's challenge. For 4 years he had searched for the whereabouts of any of the Shengshao. So far he had yet to use his contract gun. Regan just refused to heed his summons. Impossible. Liru screamed in defiance. How does a 14-year-old boy beat my intelligence, me, Liru the rat? Liru screamed out for answers, yet only he and Naruto were present. Even with my cheating, he still wins. You were cheating? Naruto's eyebrow rose in surprise to Liru's slip of the tongue, something even the large rat noticed as well. Remember this, kid, I rule, always. Liru came clean, but remained cryptic in his response. It's okay, in all honesty, I cheated as well. Naruto answered honestly, giggling cheekily, winking and sticking his tongue out at the spirit rat. Within the first few minutes of the game I knew he wouldn't be able to beat you fairly. I'd love to have your skills in my team. Liru, please work with me as my partner? Liru's eyes widened with the revelation before his face morphed to a sly smirk. I like you, kid. You have the natural prankster's cunning, as well as the natural prankster's innocence. I think we will make great partners. He spoke, holding out his grotty paw towards the young blonde mage. Naruto beamed widely, ignoring the dirtiness of the paw, and grabbed it with his own hand, shaking it once before Liru began disappearing in a dirty white light. Naruto stood before the large green snake. It had been 1 whole year since he had found Liru, and now in the middle of an Amazon rainforest, under the information from an old woman he had met in a town some weeks back, he had finally found the snake spirit of the Shengshao, alive. Let's begin your challenge, alive, he said with a warm smile. Her challenge did not seem difficult. To look at her Medusa form and not feel fear. She had explained that if one feels fear when looking at her Medusa form, their body would become paralyzed. Even if the fear wasn't directed at her, the smallest amount of fear would end with paralysis. The snake nodded, before growing significantly larger. Her scales turned a darker green, her eyes turning a darker blood red, with a red gem appearing in between her eyes. Black bands covered the length of her body. And a hood grew from her body, and on the hood was a dark face with black eyes with concentric red rings in them with a jagged dark smile. Naruto stared at the darker appearance of the snake, yet he felt nothing. I'm not scared, he replied honestly. If anything, you just look so much more cooler. A large beaming smile grew on his face. The snake's brow furrowed, before reverting back to her original form. You've passed the first part of my challenge. The snake hissed out, before quickly darting towards the blonde, her body coiling around his until her arms reaching his head. Now for the real task. She hissed softly again, her hands beginning to stroke through his blonde locks. Amazing. A life spoke as if in euphoria as her hands stroked through his hair. This boy, he has nothing but pure thoughts. I sense no darkness, no evil, no malcontent or misuse for its spirits. He truly cares for us. A very faint red tint appeared on her face. He does not view me as a friend or tool, but a companion and a friend. Naruto only stood still, allowing the snake to do whatever she was doing. I shall accompany you. I shall become your partner. My strength is yours. And my strength is yours as well. Naruto replied with a large grin, his hand reaching hers before she started disappearing in a faint light. The last thing he heard from her was a hissing, yet girlish shy giggle. Naruto grunted as Win's large fist connected with his cross-armed guard, before spinning in the air to kick the tiger spirit in the chest, knocking him back. Yet Win recovered quickly, charging towards Naruto before he even had the chance to touch the floor, delivering a powerful knee to Naruto's abdomen whilst in midair before punching him in the same spot as the blonde rose, launching across the empty field they found to train. Naruto grunted with pain as he rolled along the floor to a halt, before slowly rising to his knees. Why do you not use magic, Naruto? Win asked as he watched his blonde owner rise to his feet. Naruto gave a smirk back to Win. Because you're not using any magic, he replied, crouching back down to a fighting stance. It wouldn't be fair if I used magic. Win gave a small chuckle. Small bone spike began growing from his fists and forearms. Then perhaps I should raise the level of this game. So why am I doing this, Yiro? Naruto asked as he sat cross-legged next to the dog summon. His power form on the top of a grassy hill at sunset, the wind gently brushing through the grass, creating wave patterns along the hill. Because you are strong in body and spirit, Naruto, but you must also be strong in mind as well, otherwise it could hinder the strength of your body and spirit. You must keep them on par with each other. Meditation is a good method of training the mind, developing how to relax and empty your mind, as well as learning how to focus. The dog spirit replied, already entering a meditative position. Naruto nodded in understanding, before mimicking the position Yiro displayed. Okay, so empty my mind, focus on emptying my mind. But that seems contradictory, focusing your mind on emptying it. Naruto sat with his brow furrowed. Thoughts kept wandering in and out of his head as he attempted to clear his mind. I wonder how Lucy is. I haven't seen her in a while. Does she have any new spirits? Is she keeping up with her rent? How was her last job? Is she okay? Thinking about Lucy. Yiro's voice suddenly broke him out of his train of thought. The blonde mage coughed and stammered loudly, his cheeks turning a faint red. The blonde turned towards the dog spirit, noticing an uncharacteristic sly and cheeky smirk on his face. Do you love her? That's a bit extreme, Naruto answered once he had composed himself, but the red tint on his cheeks and the inability to meet Yiro in the eye remained. I mean, she is really nice, and fun and cool, and I like her a lot. But love? I apologize for my brashness on pressing the subject. Yiro responded after hearing Naruto's indecisive answer. You must remember, Naruto. I worry only for your safety. Naruto looked towards the larger human-like dog with confusion. What did his safety have to do with love? Love is perhaps the most powerful thing in the world. Yiro continued. However, it is also the worst drug in existence. It gives impossible highs, offer euphoria to people. However, if one becomes addicted to love, they can never get away from it. When they lack it, they crave it more than anything, and it can lead people in the darkness, turning people into monsters. So are you saying it is a bad thing to love then? Naruto asked, the only question that came to his mind during Yiro's speech. No, Yiro answered bluntly. Love can also be empowering. It can be a powerful driving force, giving people that edge, something worth fighting for. In fact, I commend you, Naruto, for pursuing love, but I would caution you as well. Be wary of those who would use it as a weapon against you, to give themselves an advantage over you and weaken you. Naruto's face fell blank at the words, as he looked back out to the sunset. Thoughts plagued his mind. Would my feelings for her put Lucy in danger? He would seriously at the idea of Lucy being hurt as a mean to hurt him, before he shook his head clear of the thoughts, his eyes snapping open to lock with the horizon. It doesn't matter. Whatever danger is posed towards Lucy, I will always be there to protect her. Naruto stared at Rigen, yet despite the leader of the Shungshao's request, a happy smile grew on his face as he stared down towards the summon gun. It began glowing in a faint light, and when he looked back towards the dragon summon, Rigen was accompanied by his fellow spirits, Liru, Wing, Alife, and Yiro, all staring back at the blonde mage with anticipation for his answer. I've had great memories with all of you, even Rigen, Naruto chuckled out in a soft whisper, and if it has to end here, I won't be sad. Maybe we will see each other again one day. I've always prioritized your happiness over my own, so I promise I will never forget any of you. He smiled bigger, before looking towards Regan directly. I accept the terms of your request. I free all of you from my control, go be free and wait for someone even more worthy of your companionship than I was. A small tear fell from his eye as he walked over to Regan, placing his contract gun into the summon's hand. He took a few steps away from his summons, looking at them for the final time. Proud smiles grew on their faces, and even Regan had managed to form a smile on his usually dead serious face. You pass my challenge, Regan spoke softly to the blonde mage, whose eyes opened wide-eyed in shock. I reign over the Shengshou. As such, my concern is only for their safety and happiness. Regan continued, noting the stunned to silence etched on the blonde's face. My owner must prove that he cares for his spirits even more than he does for himself, to relinquish his own happiness in exchange for theirs. This is what you proved, Naruto, and now I will work with you as your partner. A smile regrew on Naruto's face. That was a dirty trick. He spoke with slight anger, but laughed nonetheless, wiping the tears from his face. Regan chuckled slightly at the blonde mage's response. And now, there is something that must be done. Regan continued, regaining the blonde attention. Usually you must wait until have recruit 6 of the Shengshou before this new gift is given. However, since I am the leader of the Shengshou, and due to Spedizzi targeting you, I shall make an exception this one time. The dragon summon held up the golden contract gun, which began to glow in an abnormally bright golden light. Naruto could only make out the outline of the gun changing. As the light dimmed, Naruto now saw the full extent of what had been done to his contract gun. The gun had grown larger in size, colored in an even brighter gold color. The biggest change came in the fact that the gun was now double-barreled, with 2 slots being visible on either side of the gun. Along the barrel of the gun, intrinsic designs of 5 animals were shown, a dragon, rat, and tiger on the left barrel and a snake and dog on the right barrel. With this, you may now summon up to 2 of the Shengshou at the same time. Use this new power carefully, some of our powers blend better than others. Regan explained, throwing the gun back to Naruto. The blonde mage caught it easily enough. Looking back to the 5 spirits, he beamed a large grin in their direction. I promise I won't let you down, my partners, my teammates, my friends. The next day was sunny, warm and bright, as if the weather reflected Naruto's feelings. He stood in the guild hall with Lucy and Natsu, as well as Gray and Urza. Even Makarov was in the guild hall sitting on the bar with Mirajane working behind it. The atmosphere was relaxing and calm, as everyone spoke and laughed. It was serene, it almost made Naruto want to sleep. Wait, sleep? Naruto thought with confusion before he let out a small yawn. He looked around. Everyone else in the guild began to feel the same thing, some even already falling fast asleep. He looked towards the guild master, who felt the impact as well, slurring his words with tiredness. Suddenly everyone fell asleep. Lucy, he called as the girl fell asleep, leaning backwards and almost knocking her head off the floor if it weren't for Naruto's quickly reflexes to catch her quickly and lower her gently onto the floor. The front doors to the guild suddenly opened. A man wearing a black cloak and a black bandana with a silver forehead protector, and a green mask obscuring the bottom half of his face walked in. His body was completely covered in bandages, save for his sandal-adorned feet. Large baggy pants came from his shins up to his waist yet did not connect, seeming to float on his legs. His body was considerably thinner, wearing blue cloth over his torso and blue gloves. On his back were 5 massive staves, each one made out of a different wood with a different design. The man walked straight up towards the master, and Naruto quickly ran in front of the old man, crouching into a fight-ready stance. Master, he called out protectively. Though I don't know how long I can last in this condition, I have to protect the guild. It's all right, Naruto, this is Mistogen. He's a member of Fairy Tail's S-class rank. He puts everyone to sleep when he comes because he doesn't like people seeing his face. The old man explained, calling off Naruto's protection. Only those with incredibly powerful magical aura and willpower can withstand my sleep magic, the man. Mistogen spoke in a calm voice, walking past Makarov and Naruto towards the request board, picking the first job he saw. In fact, in Fairy Tail, only Master, Gildarts and Laxus can withstand it. So my question is, why is he still awake? He asked, showing Makarov the job he was taking. I guess Naruto must have incredibly powerful magical aura and willpower then. Makarov responded groggily, still under the effects of the sleep magic. Mistogen's head turned quickly to Naruto, almost as if he was surprised. This is Naruto? Even his voice was laced with slight surprise, waiting for Makarov's nod before continuing. Master, I would ask that Naruto accompanies me on this job. Strange, you've only ever worked alone, however I will allow it if it makes you wake everyone else up sooner. Makarov spoke, before turning to the blonde mage. Go with Mistogen, Naruto. I can vouch that he is strong and dependable, and he is also fiercely loyal to Fairy Tail. Naruto nodded at the old man, before turning to the masked mage. I'll meet you outside then. Naruto spoke before slowly making his way towards the doors. So what's up, Mistogen, really? Makarov asked once Naruto was out of earshot. As soon as you heard his name you became interested in him. And how is it you already know Naruto's name? We have always known that Laxus's Ragenshu is incomplete, that Laxus has been waiting for some to mark the final corner. We have always known Laxus would target his fourth member soon, and I have been watching Laxus by your command. It appears Naruto is that target. Mistogen responded to Makarov's surprise. I want to check where Naruto's true loyalties lie, and if he will betray the good of the guild or not. The masked mage finished before disappearing in a mist. Mistogen, wait! Makarov shouted to halt the mage, but to no avail. As soon as he disappeared everyone began waking up, everyone looking around tiredly and groggily, but all still appeared to know what had happened. That Mistogen, always so reclusive. Members of the guild shouted, before starting to talk about the mysterious S-class mage. Hey, where's Naruto? Lucy asked with confusion, when she had fell asleep. Naruto was right beside her, and now she had woken up, he was gone. He went on a job with Mistogen. Makarov grumbled out, clearly not happy that the masked mage had left him with many riddles and questions. The guild collectively gasped with shock at the revelation. What? Pathetic. A tall and muscular man with long, spiky black hair, slicked back revealing his forehead, shouted in a mocking tone as he pinned the small blue-haired girl in between her two teammates on a tree. He had red eyes with slitted dark pupils and no visible eyebrows. Most of his exposed body was covered in sets of simple, round studs. The most visible studs are on his face, with 3 of them above each of his eyes, 3 on each side of his nose, and 2 on his chin, just below his mouth. His ears are adorned by 2 sets of 5 earrings each. He also sports 4 studs on each of his forearms, with his right one being covered in scars. His guild stamp was located at the top of his right shoulder. His clothing consisted of a shabby, black, sleeveless tunic with studded edges, with a studded belt around his waist, loose whitish pants tucked inside studded black boots, and a pair of studded brown gloves paired with similarly studded wristbands. He also sported a distinctive wing-like ornament, seemingly made of feathers jutting upwards, over his right shoulder, attached to his tunic by a large stud. Don't you think you took it a bit too far, Gajeel? Master specifically instructed that they be kept alive. A deeper voice rang out, as footsteps resounded as he approached the other man. The first man, Gajeel chuckled in amusement. It's not like you to show worry, sympathy or mercy. He laughed mockingly. Besides, they are still alive, and even to do that was a task for me. Pain is never too much for these fairy trash. The other man shrugged his massive shoulders impassively. Whatever, what matters is that Fairy Tail gets the message. He answered as he threw 3 large gravestones in front of each one of the Fairy Tail members. Levi, Droy and Jet was written on each of them, as well as the guild stamp on Gajeel's shoulder. Finish up here before we attract any unwanted attention. And who put you in charge, Zabrak? Gajeel responded angrily, before his arm morphed into a large iron brand, shaped like his guild insignia. He dabbed it into the blood left on the floor from the 3 Fairy Tail members, before painfully pushing it onto the blue-haired girl's stomach, leaving their guild stamp on her stomach. It's finally time to show Fury that Phantom Lord is the top guild. Gajeel laughed as he and his mysterious accomplice left the scene, leaving behind the faint breathing of Shadow Gear. That job wasn't as hard as I was anticipating, though it was a bit tiring. Naruto spoke, breaking the silence as he and Mistgun walked down a path in the middle of the forest. For a job partner, Mistgun had said nothing. Even after completing it and returning to collect the pay, now had he barely spoken more than 5 sentences. Still, the masked mage didn't reply to Naruto's attempts to make conversation, something that was beginning to annoy Naruto. So why did you want me to join you on this job as soon as you heard my name? Laxus. Mistgun finally answered, although it confused the blonde, the name wasn't unfamiliar, that Evergreen constantly spoke of him as if he was a god. He has recruited 3 members of Fairy Tail, named the Ragenshu. For now they remain as his personal bodyguards. However, the master believes there is an ulterior motive behind their formation. That he became even more estranged from the guild than he already is, taking 3 of Fairy Tail's strongest mages with him. So what's this got to do with me? Naruto asked, confused about his part in this. The master and I believe that there is still one spot open in the Ragenshu, and we believe he is going to recruit you into it. You're a new member, haven't really made any strong connections with the other guild members, and you are a powerful mage, everything that Laxus values. Mistgun replied quickly, give a brief explanation to the blonde mage. And why are you so sure he's recruiting one more member? Naruto responded with yet another question. He tried to recruit me into it a few months ago. I refused. Mistgun answered bluntly. We believe Laxus has targeted you for his 4th and final member, soon he may make the invitation. And what if I refuse? Impossible. Mistgun answered bluntly again. The invitation is impossible to refuse. When I declined, Laxus challenged me to a fight which ended in a draw, although he gained important information and leverage against me during the battle. You are strong, Naruto, but you are not on his level. He will destroy you if you refuse. And what is this leverage he received? Naruto frowned at Mistgun's underestimation of his abilities. The master will consult you further on the matter of Laxus. Mistgun answered, dodging the blonde mage's most recent question. Of course, this is all hypothetical at the moment. Laxus hasn't made a move yet. Members of the town and Fairy Tail clamored around the scene in shock. Having lifelessly from a tree were Levi, Jet and Droy, each one held up by metal braces over their wrists. Branded onto Levi's stomach was the Phantom Lord insignia. At the base of the tree were 3 headstones, each topped with the Fairy Tail insignia carved expertly into the stone. The 3 names were carved into the headstones, followed by the Phantom Lord insignia again underneath the. This is too far. Unmatched fury filled Natsu's face as he stared at the 3 of them, battered and bruised in the tree with a stunned Lucy, Gray and Urza. The crowd began parting and went silent as the small old master of Makarov made his way to the tree, looking up at the 3 of them once more before lowering his head, a hand covering his eyes, yet one teardrop escaped, falling to the floor with a small splash. Destroying our guild I could tolerate, but this, his head rose up anger, complete rage bulged the veins out on his forehead. No father can stand idly by while the blood of his children is spilled. This cannot be forgiven and left unanswered. His smiley face staff was snapped in half by his grip tightening ferociously. He turned towards the Fairy Tail members. Expressions of anger covered all of their faces. Fairy Tail goes to war. What have you learned? And be quick, I'm going on a job soon. Laxus asked his 3 members of the Ragenshu. He had kept all them out of Fairy Tail, knowing that Makarov would declare war on Phantom Lord as soon as he saw Shadow Gear. Now the guild was deserted. His Ragenshu were gathered around him whilst he sat on a bench. Makarov has led Fairy Tail to Phantom Lord's headquarters. I expect they will not be back until revenge has been delivered. Evergreen answered quickly. As I had promised, Phantom Lord made their move and Makarov retaliated exactly as planned. Laxus responded with a cool smirk. Bixlow, watch Naruto during the fight with your dolls, see how he responds to this threat against Fairy Tail. The Ragenshu members all seemed to quieten down. Laxus. Fried finally spoke. Naruto is not in Fairy Tail. He left with Mistogen on a job before they went to war. Laxus only laughed loudly at the news. So even Mistogen took an interest in him. He laughed loudly. Don't worry about it. I'm sure Naruto will join the battle sooner or later, but even that reclusive Mistogen sees potential in him. How interesting, Laxus mused, his interest in Naruto seeming to spark further with the news. So what do you want us to do, Laxus? Bixlow asked, his tongue remaining outside his mouth even as he spoke. Don't enter the fight. Watch Naruto through one of your dolls, Bixlow. Evaluate who is worthy of remaining in my fairy tale, and watch Naruto closely when he arrives. Laxus repeated, standing up from the bench. You 3 stay here and protect the guild hall in case anyone attempts to attack and destroy it. I won't have this hall destroyed, only the weaker members of Fairy Tail leave it. Juvia's waterlock can never be broken. The blue-haired girl spoke in a dull tone as Lucy lost consciousness in the sphere of water. Très bien. The green-haired man half hidden in the pavement. Saul spoke to the clue-clothed woman, Juvia. Don't worry. Juvia will not kill you. Juvia continued speaking to the blonde-haired girl in the water. Because it is Juvia's job to bring you back, Lucy Hartfilia-sama. She finished as she approached the sphere of water. Capture accomplished. Victoire. The green-haired man answered in return to Juvia. They soon parted from the scene. The only thing left behind to prove they were even there were the puddles from the sunshower, and Lucy's keys, left in their holder on the cold wet pavement. Naruto suddenly turned around, facing towards the direction they had come, towards Fairy Tail. Something gave him an ominous feeling. I have a bad feeling, Lucy is in danger. Quickly he drew his contract gun and one of his discs. Load platinum disc. He spoke, loading the disc into the gun. Summon. 6th year Sishi. Alive the snake. He fired the gun, and in a moment of blinding, glittering light, the snake summon appeared. Wrapped around Naruto. Her trademark apple in one hand and her other hand running through Naruto's blonde locks. Alive. I need you to find out what is happening with Fairy Tail. He spoke quickly. The snake spirit nodded, slithering off him and onto the floor, where she closed her eyes and her tail began vibrating. Fairy Tail has entered war. She responded after a few seconds. Phantom Lord members destroyed the guild and attacked that Team Shadow Gear. Levi, Jet, Droy, Naruto's mind thought about the 3 members of Shadow Gear. They weren't exactly the biggest threat out there. Whoever had done this did it to send a message, not out of a grudge. What else? It was Master Makarov that declared war in retaliation for Shadow Gear attack. Fairy Tail have already marched towards Phantom Lord headquarters. Alive continued, elaborating further. And what about Lucy? She's not built for war. Naruto pointed out in a slightly higher worried and agitated tone. She has been attacked and kidnapped, Naruto-kun, by 2 members of Phantom Lord's Element 4. Juvia Loxer and Saul. She's been taken to Phantom Lord to be used as bait for Fairy Tail's destruction before being handed back to her father. I'm going. Naruto butted in, turning towards the masked mist gun. Fairy Tail is your guild as well. Are you coming? You may go, but I cannot. Mistgun replied, allowing Naruto to abandon the job. I have to finish this job, then I have other matters to attend to. Besides, with you and Urza, and even Gray and Natsu there, I would not be needed. He turned, continuing to walk away from the blonde. I would hurry if I were you. Every second wasted is a second closer to Fairy Tail members being harmed. Mistgun spoke before vanishing in a translucent mist. Naruto's brow furrowed at Mistgun's actions. Why would he abandon Fairy Tail? Let's go. Alive. He spoke, scooping the large snake up. That mage, he's not a bad person. Alive spoke to the blonde as he ran towards Fairy Tail. He plans on destroying Phantom Lord's branches. Will you deal with the main headquarters? He has placed a lot of faith in your strength, Naruto. Alive said before disappearing in a light, returning to the spirit world, lessening the load and allowing Naruto to run a lot faster. Naruto's eyes widened at Mistgun's actions, before a smile grew on his face. Then I won't let him down. Only Titania Urza is here. Laxus and Mistgun are staying out of the spotlight, those arrogant bastards, and Gildarts. Well, he's never at the guild anyway apparently. Sounds of war filled the small room they sat in the tallest tower of Phantom Lord's headquarters. Magic collided with other humans or the battleground. Sounds of screaming and pain when an attacker connected to his opponent. So when do we get to join in? You and I, Zabrak. We are the strongest in Phantom Lord. Why must we sit out? Saul does make a good decoy, doesn't he? He plays his old part well, pretending to be the personification of Earth in the Element 4, while taking all the pressure and publicity away from me. Zabrak answered, intentionally dodging Gajil's question for the time being. Master Jose has given us strict orders. We are to wait until the majority of Phantom Lord members have been defeated and Fairy Tail is worn out and tired before we attack. Gajil grinned maliciously with news. That will be soon. Juvia has just been brought down by that ice mage from Fairy Tail. And Fairy Tail are still confused and in shambles why the Jupiter cannon is still firing even though Arya was taken down by that Titania's swords. It appears Titania is going to use herself as a shield against the Jupiter cannon's blast. Zabrak similarly grinned as he stood up. That's a shame. I was hoping to see if Titania lived up to her fearsome reputation. Jupiter will completely break her down if it doesn't kill her instantly. And there is no pride in killing a wounded lion. He spoke, before turning to Gajeel. Gajeel, you go after the target. She may be of some use in the battle. I'll take care of the trash below. He continued, before splitting apart from the Iron Dragon Slayer. Members of Fairy Tail, including Natsu and Urza, began regrouping at the center of Phantom's Guild Hall. They had been given a moment's rest due to there being no more members of Phantom to pummel at the moment. Why haven't we seen Gajeel yet? Urza asked suspiciously. According to his profile, he was a battle-loving individual who hated Fairy Tail. Shouldn't he had been the first person to intercept them if that were true? Suddenly a colossal crash was heard. The floor began cracking under the sheer weight of what sounded like 2 tons of rock dropping onto it. When they looked at the source, a dust cloud masked whatever had caused it, yet the edges of a newly formed crater in the ground could be seen. A powerful magical aura began resonating from the cloud as it began dissipating. Whatever it is, it's powerful, stronger than my own. Urza thought as the cloud almost revealed the cause of the crash. It was a boy, around their own age, that had caused the damage. He was not a colossus, yet he easily stood a head taller than Gray, who was by no means a short man. He stood roughly the same size as Laxus, if not even taller, and built at the same physique as Laxus, who stood by far muscular than the lean Natsu or Gray. His clothing consisted of dark gray pants with chains connected to the pockets tucked into black steel toe-cap boots. Covering his torso was a black muscle shirt, followed by a brown sleeveless hooded duster jacket and a pair of black gloves, which extended all the way to his jacket. The hood of his jacket was up, concealing his face in shadow with the exception of his piercing silver eyes, which managed to glow through the darkness in the bottom half of his face, where a smirk could be seen, not one of innocence or smugness, but confidence in himself. The hood was up, yet sandy brown locks of hair still pushed their way from the confines, jutting themselves into view around his neck. Gajeel is the least of your concerns at the moment. His voice was articulate, calm even. There was no anger or gruffness present, it matched the smirk on his face perfectly. I am. The name is Zabrak Granfall, you would do well to remember it. I've heard of him, the reclusive member of Phantom Lord, not on par with Mistgun's reclusiveness but still a very private individual. Gravemaker, Zabrak, even Sorcerer's Magazine didn't know what he looked like. He's meant to be another Phantom S-class mage. Urza admitted to the Fairy Tail group. Recognition is always flattering, Titania. His smile grew slightly. Now, in order to stop the Jupiter cannon, you're going to have to beat me. That's a lie. Natsu screamed in response. It's the Element 4 that are linked to the cannon, and there's only one guy left. We've beat Sol, Juvia and Totemaru. Zabrak only responded with a small chuckle. True. But what if Sol no longer held that title? He asked to their utter surprise. He does play the part of my decoy well, doesn't he? So in order to stop it, we still need to be this guy and Arya. Urza deducted, staring down the hooded mage. Other members of Fairy Tail also began taking a fighting stance against him. Zabrak's smirk turned to a wide grin as he crouched down into a stance. I'll make you a deal. If any of you force me to have to use magic, I'll build you all fine gravestones. You helped Gajeel attack Fairy Tail. Natsu's fury knew no bounds. He knew instantly as he remembered the 3 gravestones at the bottom of the tree under Shadow Gear. He charged full speed at the larger mage, his fist alit with red-hot flames. A gigantic fist connected with the side of his face. Zabrak had simply swung his arm and connected with the rosy-haired mage, swatting him like a fly into the wall to the left of him. Zabrak stared over at the mess he made, ignoring perhaps the biggest Fairy Tail threat for the moment. He looked back. Urza had taken her chance. In midair and her sword above her she swiped down hard on the mage with all her might. And the eyes of Fairy Tail widened in horror. The blade shattered of his skin, not even leaving a scratch. Pathetic. He uttered bluntly, before grabbing Urza by her legs. In midair she could do nothing to counter. He swung his arms over his head and with his force, pulled them back, launching Urza into the ground, leaving a crater in the wake. The force was enough to lift Urza back into the air. Zabrak started his second assault on her. It was one boot into her midsection, launching her back into the ground and away from him, her body skimming across the cold hard floor like a pebble on the water. The silver-haired mage then turned to the other members of Fairy Tail, the smirk present again on his face as he cracked his knuckles. So, whose grave am I digging next? He chuckled before he made his move. Nothing was safe from him. With sheer brute strength and force alone he decimated everyone who came close to him. Every member of Fairy Tail was not safe. His fists launched people through walls. His grapples broke the earth beneath them. His kicks launched mages to the sky above. And he had yet to use a single magical ability. Hey, Fairy Tail. Even Zabrak stopped at the voice calling, as the downed members of Fairy Tail recovered to see who called them. Look what I've got. A cackling laugh resonated through Phantom's ruined guild. Gajeel Red Fox, ace of Phantom Lord and Iron Dragon Slayer, had Lucy, battered and bruised, hanging in the air by her hair clumped up into his fist. If you can't even beat Zabrak, there's definitely no way you're gonna free her from me. Gajeel laughed out evilly once again. You bastard. Natsu screamed towards the black-haired mage, whose self-righteous grin only grew further. Stupid salamander, you're a disgrace to dragon slayers, to think that you. He was cut off by a boot connecting to his face. He couldn't even see the person behind the surprise attack. His grip on the girl had been released with the surprise attack, and his body rocketed into the nearby wall, halting as his back connected to it and sliding down to the ground. Lucy flew up into the air until she landed in someone's arms bridal style. She finally opened her eyes, and a warm smile couldn't help but grow back on her face. For a minute, I didn't know if you would get here in time, but you came. A tear slid down her face as she stared up to those familiar ocean blue eyes, surrounded by a mop of spiky blonde hair. Naruto's warm smile stared back at her. They lingered in this moment for only a second, before he led her down to the floor. Stay safe, Lucy. This will be over soon. He spoke calmly, before looking towards Natsu. Natsu, you go after Gajeel. He ordered before turning to Urza, who had managed to rise to her feet once again. Urza, you go and get Arya. I'll deal with this one. He shouted, before he disappeared from the spot. Razan. Gone. Zabrak had no time to react. The blonde was just suddenly crouched down in front of him, an orb of blue, swirling magic in his palm. He thrust the attack into Zabrak's stomach, and the larger mage's eyes widened with shock and pain. He managed to hurt me, hurt this body, was the only thought that ran through the silver-haired mage's mind as he was launched across the guild hall. Other fights had ceased to see the events occurring between the two mages. Phantom Lord members stood stunned at what had just occurred. Nobody interfere. Naruto roared to both Fairy Tail members and Phantom Lord members as he calmly walked towards the downed Zabrak, who lay all the way at the other side of the guild hall. Zabrak returned to his feet easily enough, still a smile was plastered on his face. Oh, so you're the real prize here, he chuckled out as he grinned madly. Naruto slipped into a fighting stance as he got closer. For what you've done to Fairy Tail. His head lifted menacingly, his eyes had darkened with pure rage as he glared down the hooded mage. I'm gonna break you. The end. Now we will see you in the next video.